Naruto, man, I'm going to be Hokage. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Attack Naruto. Have you asked my uncle? Future Sama, I'm coming up. The four young Uchihas rushed towards Namikaze Mirai in excitement. 3 of the 4 had opened their Sharingan. 2 pairs have 1 Magatama, and 1 pair has 2 Magatama. Namikaze Mirai stood there with a faint smile. Uchiha, who rushed to the front with his double Magatama, arrived the fastest. His right fist hit the side of Namikaze Mirai's face with great force, opening and closing in a tough steel fist style. The moment he thought he had hit, Namikaze Mirai disappeared. So fast. You didn't even see my Sharingan clearly. Shocked. In his heart, his 2 Magatama Rise immediately scanned the surroundings, trying to find traces of Namikaze's future. However, the severe pain in his abdomen caused his expression to change, and from the corner of his eye, he saw Namikaze Mirai appearing on his right side. The huge force drove his body and flew backwards almost at the same time. The second and third Uchiha also rushed over. During the exchange of fists and legs, their expressions changed. So hard. Is this a human body? Their heavy punches hit Namikaze Mirai, and the sound they made was the clanging sound of metal colliding. After less than a round of physical combat between several people, Namikaze lost his vision of the future again. With a single Magatama Sharingan, there is no way to catch up with the speed of Namikaze Mirai. Be careful to defend your back. A faint reminder came from behind, and the 2 Uchihas' breaths suffocated, and they hurriedly tried to turn around. Boom, boom. 2 dull sounds of flesh colliding were heard, and the 2 Uchiha fell forward, falling to pieces. The last Uchiha was kicked from behind by Namikaze Mirai. Before he even saw his body. The 3 fell into a row side by side, neatly. The whole process takes less than a minute. All 4 Uchiha fell down. So amazing. As expected of the future master, he didn't even shed a drop of sweat. Listening to the excited voices of the tribesmen around them, the Uchiha who were knocked down wanted to find a crack in the ground and crawl in. There were so many of them that they didn't even touch the corner of Namikaze Mirai's clothes. Namikaze Mirai looked at this scene with a smile. He knew that Uchiha Mukyang wanted to be recognized by this group of Uchiha without a fight. Therefore, fighting is a required course for the gods. At the same time, the forest on the edge of the Uchiha clan. Danzo and his base members were standing there quietly. Lord Danzo, Gan and Wen have already started taking action. The sensing root, who was standing behind Danzo, spoke respectfully to Danzo standing in front of him. Gan and Wen are both members of the roots who are best at infiltrating. This operation is critical, and the greater the number of people involved, the greater the risk of exposure. Therefore, Danzo only sent these 2 people. Very but Danzo, standing at the front, looked through the gaps in the forest in the direction of the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan is protected by a barrier. However, this barrier is not completely without loopholes. Roots had been monitoring continuously for several years, and in the process, they found a way to sneak in. The 2 people he sent were the most perfect infiltrators at the root. With their outstanding abilities, infiltrating the Uchiha clan was not a problem. According to the information he had previously investigated, during this time every day, Namikaze Mirai was training the Uchiha tribesmen on the banks of the Nanga River. This allowed them to find an opportunity to take advantage of. Once Naruto is brought out, the balance of this struggle will tilt in his favor, as long as Naruto is in his hands. No matter how strong Namikaze is in the future, what can he do? HMPH. Shisu, do you think that, if you reject me, I will have no other options? Thinking of the Uchiha Shisu who dared to reject him, a cold smile rose in Danzo's eyes. Underground in the Uchiha tribe, 2 figures moved quickly in the soil. It is the root of the Danzo sect. Compared with operating on the ground, underground operations are more concealed, and the risk of exposure is lower. Relying on the barrier loophole discovered by the surveillance route, he sneaked in without wasting much effort. This operation is extremely dangerous, but As Danzo's carefully trained root members, they have already put completing the mission above their own lives. The direction of movement is very clear. The Patriarch's mansion point according to the intelligence. Naruto should live there. Namikaze Mirai was currently training the Uchiha tribesmen on the banks of the Nanga River. Far away from Naruto's position. It is not impossible to kidnap Naruto in the courtyard of the clan leader's residence. Naruto smiled and looked at Sasuke, who was being dressed up by him. It still looks better this way. 3-year-old Sasuke is already very cute, looking like a girl. Coupled with this carefully chosen short skirt, it was so cute that it almost made Naruto's nose bleed. This is not good. Sasuke looked at himself and felt that he had become strange. Naruto would always find some weird things for him to wear. It's suitable. It's so suitable. While the two were playing around, they didn't notice at all that two strange ninjas had sneaked into the underground of the courtyard. After a while, Naruto got tired of playing, and after saying goodbye to Sasuke, he was ready to go back and rest. What should we play with Sasuke next time? Naruto thought. When he reached an uninhabited corner, his feet suddenly stepped on the air. A big hand came out of the soil, grabbed Naruto's ankle, and dragged him into the ground. Before Naruto could shout, he was hit on the neck and passed out. The whole process occurs in a very short time. Succeeded. Gan Hyun, who was sneaking underground, showed joy in his eyes. After preparing carefully for so long, I finally succeeded. Now as long as he brings the Jinchuriki back to Danzo, his mission will be completed. The two of them carried the unconscious Naruto and ran wildly underground. In the sealed space, the sleeping Ninetales suddenly opened his eyes, a pair of strange vertical pupils showing a bit of surprise. Naruto was taken away. If he remembered correctly, this was the land of the Uchiha clan, and the other party was actually able to sneak into the land of the Uchiha clan and steal away the Jinchuriki quietly. This is definitely not something that ordinary forces can do. In my impression, the only one in Konoha who has this ability and motivation is Danzo, right? If he remembered correctly, Namikaze Mirai had made arrangements for Naruto. Taking Naruto away so blatantly. Maybe that guy has discovered it by now. Hahaha. Interesting. Interesting. What will happen next? For the first time, deep anticipation and excitement emerged in Kyuubi's strange vertical pupils. It's like an audience waiting for the show to begin. Almost at the same time, Mirai Namikaze, who was training the Uchiha tribe, was near the Nanga River. Suddenly, as if he sensed something, he suddenly turned his head and looked in the direction of the Patriarch's mansion. There seemed to be terrifying flames rising in his eyes. Have you asked my uncle if you want to attack Naruto? The air in the entire training ground instantly turned cold. Chapter 50. To the inherently evil Namikaze Mirai. Underground, Gan and Wen's speed had increased to the extreme, and they were running wildly with the unconscious Naruto. When he was far away from the more populated areas of Uchiha, he emerged from the ground. Without the restraint of the soil layer, the speed increased greatly, and they rushed towards the meeting position. Long before the mission began, Genbu had already planned a route to take Naruto away. This route they carefully selected was not only the shortest distance from Danzo's pickup location, but also had the smallest risk of being discovered. The two of them didn't know whether Namikaze had discovered anything unusual about Naruto in the future. The steps of action have been rehearsed many times and are straightforward. Logically speaking, the probability of exposure is very low. However, they dare not gamble. Namikaze Mirai is a man that even Danzo-sama fears. If Namikaze Mirai really found out, he must be heading towards them. If they encounter Namikaze Mirai head on, the two of them will definitely die. Naruto must be transferred to Danzo as quickly as possible. Danzo and a large number of roots are supporting the Uchiha clan outside the ground. As long as they can get there, even if Namikaze chases him in the future, there will be enough roots to stop him. What the two of them didn't notice was that there seemed to be some kind of silver liquid slowly seeping out of the unconscious Naruto's shadow. The forest outside the Uchiha clan. Danzo and his roots were waiting. There are no less than 10 members of the roots behind Danzo, and there are even more roots hidden in the darkness in this forest. Danzo attaches great importance to the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. The significance of Kyuubi is too great. We must not fall into the hands of those evil Uchihas. Once Naruto is in his hands, he can use this as a threat. to control the future of Namikaze point. So what if you are stronger with Naruto in his hands? Were he still afraid that he would cause trouble? After waiting for a while, Genbu, who had never been found, tentatively asked Danzo, who was standing there, "Danzo-sama, is there any accident?" "No. Both Gan and Wen are my subordinates who have been carefully trained by me. In terms of latent ability, no one can compare with them. Only they can complete this task." Danzo's expression was quite calm. He has absolute confidence in the subordinates he has trained. Gan and Wen are both subordinates who can complete tasks with their lives. Just wait. Sure enough, not long after his voice fell, two figures could be vaguely seen in the woods in the distance, carrying something and coming quickly. When he got closer, the roots behind Danzo were clearly visible. The thing carried on that shoulder was the unconscious Naruto. "Danzo-sama, the Jinchuriki has been brought." Gan placed Naruto on his shoulders on the ground in a half-kneeling position. "Well done." Danzo glanced at the unconscious Naruto with one eye. Several roots stepped forward, picked up the sleeping Naruto, and rushed back behind Danzo. Looking at Naruto's unconscious appearance, Danzo checked carefully and confirmed that there was no problem. A satisfied smile appeared in his eyes. "Good. Very good." It was very good to use two in succession, and it is difficult to describe Danzo's joy at this time. In the end, the Jinchuriki fell into his own hands. "Shisu, do you think I can't take away the Jinchuriki without your help?" Danzo snorted at the thought of Shisu, who dared to reject him. "If Shisu helps, this mission will definitely be much easier." However, Shisu refused. "The reason is quite ridiculous. Afraid of angering Namikaze Mirai." "Ridiculous? Didn't I kidnap Naruto just to deal with Namikaze Mirai? As long as the curse seal that controls life and death is placed on Naruto, he can use this as a threat to force Namikaze to compromise in the future. Maybe we can still find an opportunity to put a curse mark on Namikaze Mirai. By then, this unruly tiger will be in your own hands." Danzo has never been a person afraid of taking risks. World War II. 3 battles. How many risks has he taken? All he worries about is that the benefits are not worth the risks. However, this operation is different. The benefits are extremely considerable, enough to attract him to take risks. Sarutobi Hiruzen was still hesitating, but I had already found a way to win. Sure enough, I still need to take action. A proud smile appeared in Danzo's eyes, as if he had seen the scene of Namikaze falling in the future. The sad wailing that suddenly came from behind made the smile on his face suddenly freeze. "Ah. What is this? Help me." Danzo turned his head. "See you there." Silver fluid oozed crazily from Naruto's shadow, and the roots holding the unconscious Naruto were caught off guard and wrapped in the silver fluid. The silver fluid like tentacles wrapped around the base of the man's body. As he screamed in terror, it pried open the mask and penetrated deep into his mouth. The body trembled, and the eyeballs turned up to reveal a large amount of whites. Saliva mixed with blood flowed from the edge of the lips, and the hand holding Naruto fell away. The surrounding roots saw this strange scene and subconsciously distanced themselves in panic. Emotions such as panic and shock spread out from these roots in just a few seconds. The root had completely lost its vitality and turned into a drooling corpse with only the whites of its eyes left. "Damn it. What's going on?" Danzo's one eye burst out with several bright red bloodshot threads, staring at the root of the tragic death. The two Genbu who brought Naruto were also shocked by this scene and stepped back tremblingly. We don't know." Danzo turned his head, staring at the two of them with anger in his eyes. "Asshole. Didn't you two find anything unusual along the way when you brought the Jinchuriki?" Being stared at by Danzo with such a cannibalistic look, the two men who brought Naruto's cock quickly knelt down, cold sweat dripping from their foreheads. "Danzo-sama, we rushed here immediately after knocking out the Jinchuriki. We didn't find anything unusual along the way. As members of the root, they are very aware of Danzo's methods. My heart was extremely nervous on the way back. Their spirits were high and all their attention was devoted to rushing. He didn't notice the changes in the Jinchuriki at all. Danzo looked as if he had swallowed a toad alive. His face was extremely ugly. When such an accident occurred, there was no doubt that Namikaze Mirai had made arrangements for Naruto in advance. Maybe He's on his way here now. With his speed, he will be here soon. In this short period of time, the oozing silver fluid engulfed 2 more roots. Looking at the seeping scene. A strange and fearful emotion spread from the surrounding roots. Chapter 53. This time, he wants to kill everything. Get rid of this disgusting thing. Danzo issued the order eagerly. The strange fluid seeping out of Naruto's shadow had killed 3 roots in a short period of time. The appearance of death is extremely miserable. Even Danzo, the well-informed leader of the roots, has never seen such a penetrating attack. It seems that something strange that does not belong to this world has arrived. After killing 3 roots, the silver fluid seemed to have no intention of stopping. It wrapped around Naruto's body, stretched out its tentacles again, and rushed towards the surrounding roots. After hearing Danzo's order, Jin wanted to deal with the silver fluid, but he had no way of doing it. The attacks they launched had no effect on the fluid. The thrown shuriken is embedded in the fluid and cannot cause any damage, and ordinary ninjutsu attacks will only cause the fluid to disperse slightly and then regroup. In a short period of time, another root was killed. Silver tentacles penetrated his chest, wrapped around his body, lifted him up, and threw him into the forest behind him. Gan and Wen, who brought Naruto, were frightened by the scene in front of them. They risked their lives to bring Naruto back from the Uchiha clan. They thought they would be rewarded by Danzo-sama, and they were extremely happy. I didn't expect that such a thing would happen. At this moment, they were already enveloped in deep fear. Damn it. This ghost is protecting the Jinchuriki, although I can't understand the composition of this thing at all. Its behavioral logic is very easy to understand. Kill all enemies that come close to Naruto. Trash. A bunch of trash. Danzo angrily poked the ground with his crutch, and his one eye burst out with scarlet bloodshot eyes. The roots that I have carefully cultivated cannot even solve this kind of ghost thing. This place is near the Uchiha clan. Maybe Namikaze will find out in the future, and if he continues to delay, he still doesn't know what will happen. Naruto must be brought back to the root base as soon as possible. You guys, hold the silver monster, and the rest of you will leave with me and the Jinchuriki. Danzo shouted an order in a voice that could not be refused. The few roots he selected turned pale in an instant. Fighting this weird thing is equivalent to death. Until now, all their attacks have been ineffective. On the contrary, this silver monster, like a creature from another world, split into different shapes and killed them easily. Yes, but as roots, do they have a choice? Even though he knew it was a fatal mission, he still had to complete it. This is a destiny of the roots. Danzo rushed over, hugged the unconscious Naruto, jumped up, and rushed towards the root base. The silver fluid seemed to guess his thoughts and split a tentacle to wrap around Naruto's calf. Damn it. What the hell is this? Danzo was shocked. I wanted to get rid of the silver fluid that was wrapped around me, but I was in a hurry, and the silver fluid actually flowed down the tentacle and onto Naruto's body, wrapping it around Naruto and attacking his body at the same time. Sensing the approaching crisis, Danzo's pupils shrank, and without any delay, he threw Naruto to the root beside him with his backhand point. After catching Naruto's unlucky root, before he could even react, the silver fluid penetrated his body, and he let out a miserable cry. Quick, throw it to the next person. After hearing Danzo's order, the root endured the severe pain and used the transplant to throw the unconscious Naruto to the next companion. He himself fell from the sky. The next unlucky guy who caught Naruto was also attacked by the silver fluid and screamed again. Fortunately, before he died, he also obeyed Danzo's order and threw Naruto to the next companion again. Then a strange scene appeared. Every root that catches Naruto will scream and fall to the ground. Before dying again, he threw Naruto to the next companion. It seems like a relay race in exchange for life. A strange and sad atmosphere spread from the heart of the remaining roots. The eyes looking at the unconscious Naruto seemed to be looking at something extremely terrifying. This is no Jinchuriki. This is simply the sleeping god of death, the kind where whoever picks him up dies. Danzo's eyes burned with anger. In order to divert the Jinchuriki, no less than 10 of the roots he brought had died in such a short period of time. Every root undergoes rigorous training, which consumes a lot of effort. Such a huge loss would undoubtedly take away a piece of his flesh and blood. It made him extremely painful. However, as long as Naruto can be successfully brought to the root base, everything will be worth it. Once he successfully places a curse seal on Naruto, Naruto's life and death will depend on his thoughts by then. Won't Namikaze Mirai surrender obediently? A cold smile appeared in Danzo's eyes. The other side, Namikaze Mirai, whose biomagnetic field was turned to its maximum, had already locked onto Naruto's position. Danzo, you are really tired of living. The blue eyes were colder than ever before. Judging from the direction of the opponent's movement, it should be the root base. Did you take Naruto to the root base to use Naruto to threaten yourself? In just a moment, he guessed Danzo's intention. The murderous intention is strong in my heart. Danzo, even Jesus can't save you this time, I said. The violent blue arc of lightning enveloped his body in an instant, and his speed increased sharply as he rushed away. Suddenly, the roots left behind by Danzo also discovered the approaching Namikaze Mirai. Quick, stop him. Bye. Time for Danzo-sama. These roots formed seals at the same time, and the palms slammed on the ground. Earth, escape. Earth flow wall. Amidst the roar, thick earth walls rose up from the ground, blocking the only way Namikaze must pass in the future. They know the future strength of Namikaze, and they alone are not enough to stop Namikaze in the future. So their goal is to hold off Namikaze Mirai, and by Danzo-sama time, the next second, boom. Following a deafening roar, in the horrified eyes of this group of people, the earth flow wall they jointly released exploded instantly, and was easily penetrated like paper. Namikaze Mirai penetrated their defense without even slowing down much. Suffer. The icy face of Namikaze Mirai was reflected in his pupils, and at the last moment, these roots invariably gave rise to strong fear in his heart. That was the first emotion they felt, since they became the root and eliminated emotions. Endless fear. The next moment, Namikaze Mirai sprinted at extremely high speed, with several ferocious silver blades spread out all over his body. Poof. Accompanied by a dull sound of flesh breaking. The 7 roots were all dead before they could even move their fingers. Mincemeat splashes. After killing these roots, Namikaze's future speed did not slow down at all. At this moment, there was only endless coldness in his eyes. Target, root base. This time, he will kill everything. Chapter 54 Purgatory on Earth. Root base. Uncle, save me. There are bad people. There are bad people here. Naruto, who was trapped under his armpit by the root, struggled desperately, yelled, and stretched out his hands to grab the root's face. But at only 3 years old, his strength was incomparable to that of his trained roots. Even if he struggled desperately, he couldn't break free from the shackles of that root. It's so noisy. Stop his mouth. Danzo's eyes were bleeding, and he impatiently ordered Naruto's base. He was in an unusually irritable mood. He had lost too many roots in order to divert the Jinchuriki. His heart was bleeding. Yes, however, he hadn't waited for the root to make any move. Laugh. The silver fluid wrapped around Naruto's body suddenly stretched out its tentacles and instantly pierced his heart. The root let out a scream and his body fell downwards. Damn. The frequency has accelerated again. Danzo's eyes turned red. There aren't many roots left, but he still can't find a way to crack this damn thing. During the journey from the Uchiha tribe to the root base, no less than 10 roots had died. Almost every distance, you can see a corpse with roots. If he hadn't been cautious enough, in order to minimize the probability of accidents, and brought enough subordinates with him in this operation, I'm afraid he wouldn't have been able to last until this point. Looking at the last stretch of the journey, Danzo's bloodshot eyes relaxed slightly. Fortunately, it's almost there. It's the base ready, Danzo said coldly. Everything is ready, just waiting for the Jinchuriki to arrive. The sensing root who followed Danzo replied with a trembling voice. The surrounding roots are dead and there are not many left. If it weren't for the fact that he is a sentient ninja and has the ability to contact the base, I'm afraid Danzo has long been used as cannon fodder to transport Jinchuriki. However, with this terrifying death rate, it won't be long before it's his turn. Very good. Danzo finally showed joy in his eyes. Once the Jinchuriki arrived at the root base, he immediately set out to place the cursed seal on it. keeping it firmly in his hands. As for this damn thing, Danzo squinted at the silver fluid stained with blood. Just leave it to the sealing team to handle it. Danzo-sama, it's bad. There is something terrifying approaching quickly. The expression of the perceptive ninja who was guarding Danzo suddenly changed. The speed at which the other party approaches. Quick. Too fast. This is the first time, since he became a ninja, that he has sensed such a terrifying existence. Just peeking at that aura in my perception gives me a chilling feeling. Danzo squinted and turned his head, and sure enough he saw a blue object wrapped in a thunder arc breaking through the airwaves in the forest in the distance, approaching quickly. Big trees along the way were smashed into pieces, and the piercing sonic boom boom gradually grew louder as Namikaze Mirai, if you come earlier, you might be able to catch up. Unfortunately, it's too late. Just like your brother Minato, he is a guy who likes to be late at critical moments. The corners of Danzo's mouth quirked up. Ahead, the dark entrance to the root base has appeared in viewpoint with a few whooshes. The root members who had been prepared came to respond. Lord Danzo, very well, stop him. After giving a brief order, Danzo rushed towards the base with Naruto. The root ninja who came out of the seal felt his scalp numb when he saw the blue object rushing towards him in the forest. With such momentum, could it be that person? Danzo's faint voice came from behind. This is for the village. Swallowing his saliva tremblingly, a drop of cold sweat fell from his forehead under the mask. The roots formed an endless queue, firmly blocking the entrance to the base of the roots. A few seconds later the rumbling sonic boom gradually expanded. It seemed like the whole world was filled with only that roaring sound. Namikaze Mirai's cold face under the blue lightning arc was reflected in these root pupils. Get ready. It's coming. Almost. At the moment Namikaze Mirai arrived. Yun. Too long spear. Wind. Release. Wind cut. Fire. Escape. Fire dragon flame. Water. Escape. A dense and powerful ninjutsu was released, covering almost all attributes, and blasted towards the thin figure rushing towards him. Under this airtight attack, the entire ground began to tremble. Amid the erupting wind and waves, the roots blocking the entrance to the base stared intently. Solve it. More than 10 chunin and above attacked at the same time, all of which were powerful offensive ninjutsu. Even if the third Hokage comes in person, if he fails to dodge, he will probably die instantly. However, these roots did not dare to be careless at all, just because their opponent is Namikaze Mirai. Wow. The surging wind and waves were suddenly separated from the middle. The speed of the wave did not even slow down at all, and there were no signs of damage on the corners of his clothes. These pupils at the base shrank suddenly. Quick. Stop him. The next second. Scream. Wail. A moment echoed at the entrance to the root base. This group of roots, who have been carefully selected and have undergone cruel training, have no power to resist under that cold face that looks like the arrival of death. Several ferocious curved blades protruded from Namikaze Mirai's body, like a meat grinder, killing everything bloody. Everywhere you go, flesh and blood flying everywhere, broken limbs scattered everywhere. Massacre. One-sided. Massacre. Devil. The last one looked at the figure that slaughtered everyone with trembling roots. The cold face stained with blood, in his eyes, was a more terrifying existence than the god of death. Poof. The flying blade cut open his neck, and his head filled with fear flew high. Namikaze Mirai didn't even take a look, and rushed directly into the entrance of the base. Behind him was blood and broken limbs. Namikaze Mirai rushed into the root base, and without any delay, he chose a direction, and chased after it. Naruto's biomagnetic field is in that direction, and Danzo's biomagnetic field is also there. Damn. Did he kill all the people blocking the entrance? How long has it been the only passage for the root base? The root members who were defending here saw the blood-stained blonde figure rushing towards them, and their hearts seemed to be tightly grasped by a big hand. More than a dozen people can't even delay 1 minute. The cold sweat on his forehead slid down his cheeks. He held the root of the ninja sword and swallowed. The surrounding air seemed to turn into condensed ice. Depressed. Almost can't breathe. Before Danzo left, he deployed 3 lines of defense. The first line of defense stationed at the entrance was slaughtered within a minute. They were the second line of defense, must keep it. The speed of Namikaze Mirai, which was rushing towards him, did not slow down at all. The cold blue eyes reflected the fear at the root point moment. Screams rang out instantly, and flesh and blood flew everywhere. This is known as Konoha's most heavily defended root base point at this moment. It turns into purgatory on Earth. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 What? Question mark? The root base was knocked down. Kill. 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 Blood gathered into a river, flowing in the root base, and the limbs and flesh sank, and floated in the bloody river. The air was filled with an extremely strong smell of blood. The frightened roots trembled and retreated, and the blood on the soles of their shoes made them slip. Some people were tripped by their companions, and fell into the sticky blood river. Damn it. Is this guy really a human? How can he defend it? There was no expression in Namikaze Mirai's eyes, only endless coldness. In his previous life, he was also an orphan, so he knew Naruto's pain better. In this alien world, where he had no relatives, Naruto was his only relative. My dear nephew, your uncle is here to save you. He clenched his fist. Boom. The underground root base suddenly trembled, and countless steel structures penetrated the wall with metal wailing. A large number of roots that had no time to dodge were instantly pierced through by the steel structures. The fleeing roots were pierced through by the steel from bottom to top, hanging in the passage like a string of bacon. Countless corpses were pierced through and hung on the steel structures in the entire corridor. No one survived. Namikaze Mirai accelerated and rushed forward. The steel structures that pierced the roots along the way seemed to have spirituality and took the initiative to make way to form a passage. At the same time, the laboratory in the deepest part of the root base. Waste. A bunch of waste. What use do I have for you? Danzo angrily knocked the ground with his crutches. These roots of the sealing team he carefully selected were busy for most of the day, but they couldn't even solve the silver object on Naruto's body. We have tried hard, but this thing is too stubborn, the sealing team explained with a trembling voice. They tried many methods, but the silver ghost thing seemed to have no form. Even if it was wrapped with a seal scroll, it would quickly penetrate through the gap and return to Naruto's body. Naruto, who was protected by this ghost thing, was like an iron lump. No matter how hard they tried, no matter how many ways they used, it was useless. Seeing that the SEAL team could not attack for a long time, Danzo began to get anxious. How did Namikaze Mirai do it to come up with this ghost thing to protect Naruto? No more delay. Start planting the cursed seal directly. Danzo gritted his teeth. The reason why he wanted to get this silver ghost thing down was to ensure that there was no mistake in the process of planting the cursed seal. The behavior logic of this ghost thing was very simple, killing everyone who hurt Naruto. There was no need to solve this ghost thing now. If I planted the cursed seal by myself, there would be risks, so someone else needs to do it. His eyes stopped at the roots of the SEAL teams, and he said in an unquestionable tone, "You guys, use the method I taught you to put a cursed seal on the Jinchuriki." Several members of the sealing squad looked at each other, and no one stepped forward for a while. Hurry up. Don't you even listen to my orders. Hearing this, the sealing squad had to bite the bullet and move forward. They naturally knew the risks involved. When they tried to seal that ghost thing, several companions had been killed by that thing. But as a root, they disobeyed Danzo's orders. The end is worse than death. Danzo showed a sneer at the corner of his mouth. This kind of curse seal is not difficult to use. The sealing squad members who are proficient in sealing techniques can quickly master it. Even if there is protection from that ghost thing. What? Try one by one. If you die, change to the next one. There will always be a time of success. At that time, the life and death of the Jinchuriki will be in his mind. Even if Namikaze Mirai is unwilling, what can he do? Even if he can use Naruto as a threat, he can also put a curse seal on Namikaze Mirai. Danzo fantasized like this. The scarred left face showed an ugly smile. At this moment, the door of the laboratory was opened in a panic. Danzo, it's not good. The reporting root interrupted his fantasy. What's going on? Didn't I give the order? Don't come to disturb me, Danzo said impatiently. The root swallowed his saliva, as if he recalled something extremely terrifying, and his voice trembled a little. Our defense line is constantly being broken, and Namikaze Mirai is about to arrive here. What? The smile on Danzo's face froze, and his left eye socket was filled with shock and disbelief. How could it be so fast? There are hundreds of roots in the base. What are they doing? The reporting root felt bitter in his heart. If you go out and take a look, you won't ask this question. No matter how many ninjas there are, they can't stop Namikaze Mirai. This root base has long been turned into a purgatory on Earth. If he hadn't run fast, he might not have lived to report here. When the two talked. Boom. The entire root base suddenly shook violently. Danzo immediately held the laboratory equipment beside him, stabilized his body, and looked up in shock at the falling debris and dust from the ceiling. A chill rose in his heart. The location of this laboratory is the deepest part of the entire root base. If even here can feel this level of vibration, I'm afraid the situation outside is already very bad. Namikaze Mirai, how scary are you? There was a hint of fear in Danzo's eyes. Break into the root base alone, and the entire root can't do anything to you. He suddenly realized what a terrifying existence he had gotten into. His plan was too ideal. I'm afraid that the roots that I have worked so hard to build will be destroyed today. No, there is one last hope. He turned his head. His eyes were scarlet, staring at Naruto, who was surrounded by magnetic fluid. Hokage room. Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was chewing his pipe, suddenly noticed a slight vibration on the ground, and a few dust particles fell from the ceiling. His brows furrowed slightly. Earthquake? Why does an earthquake happen so suddenly? Konoha village doesn't seem to be in an earthquake zone, right? Normally, we won't encounter an earthquake for more than 10 years. Just when he was surprised, an Anbu appeared with a whoosh. The voice sounded frightened. Something bad has happened. Hokage-sama, what's so fussy about? Sarutobi. Hiruzen, who was thinking about the source of the earthquake, didn't notice his urgency. After experiencing several blows from Namikaze Mirai, he has developed a good heart. It's the root. Something happened to the root. Roots? Isn't that Danzo's base? Sarutobi. Hiruzen looked startled. It seemed that the source of the earthquake was in the direction of the root base. He caught his breath and grasped the blind spot. Speak quickly. What's wrong with the roots? The Anbu who reported the report swallowed. The entire root base collapsed. Snap. The pipe in his mouth fell away and fell onto the Hokage's desk. Sarutobi. Hiruzen's eyes were dull. What? The root base was knocked down. Chapter 56. The Dream Taper is shocked. Has Senju Hashirama been resurrected? Please read on. Something big happened. Sitting in front of the Hokage's desk, Sarutobi Hiruzen's pupils were trembling slightly. His back was soaked with cold sweat, and a chill ran from his tailbone to the back of his head. The root base is located on the edge of Konoha village. It is a large base built by hollowing out the ground. In terms of area, it was even larger than his Anbu base. Such an important place actually collapsed. Something absolutely horrific happened. Duanzo, what trouble did you get into again? A few bright red bloodshot threads burst out from the corners of Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes. To be able to make such a big noise, I'm afraid only Namikaze can do it in the future. He stared at the half-kneeling Anbu below and shouted, quick, summon the Anbu immediately. Just when Sarutobi Hiruzen summoned the Anbu, other villagers in Konoha village had also noticed something unusual in the village. Is there an earthquake? Why is it shaking suddenly? What happens? Panic, confusion, and confusion spread among the villagers. This sudden shock left them confused and at a loss until someone suddenly exclaimed, "Look, there's smoke rising over there." Following the direction that the man pointed, the other villagers turned to look and suddenly fell into a daze. I saw thick billowing smoke rising from the southern part of the village. It was not the smoke of a fire, but the dust stirred up by the collapse of a building, almost covering the forest. Such a big puff of smoke. It was not until this moment that these villagers realized the seriousness of the matter. The edge of Konoha village. The root base originally hidden underground has completely collapsed, leaving only a huge sinkhole-like depression, and the surging dust is gradually dispersing. Ahem. Danzo, whose body was covered with dust and blood, covered his mouth in a half-kneeling position, and coughed violently. As the surrounding smoke and dust dispersed, the surrounding ruins came into view, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Tragic, extremely tragic. The entire root base has been reduced to rubble, and many scattered corpses of dead roots can be seen among the rubble and broken brick walls. Danzo's pupils were trembling slightly. My heart felt like it was being held tightly by a big hand. Suffocating. Can't breathe. The roots that he had worked hard on for many years, the roots that he had devoted his whole life to, were all destroyed in one day. At this moment, he felt as if the whole world was spinning. Turning his head, his one eye was filled with ferocious bloodshot eyes, staring at Naruto, who was safe and sound under the protection of magnetic fluid. Because of you. It's all because of you. Everything I have is gone. At this moment, there was only endless killing intent left in his heart. The roots are gone. So what if the curse seal is successfully placed on Naruto? Nothing can be undone. Go to hell. Demon Fox. Danzo rushed towards Naruto with a roar of hatred. His one-eyed eyes filled with scarlet. Naruto's face turned pale with fear, and he subconsciously closed his eyes and shouted, "Uncle!" Poof. With a dull sound of flesh breaking apart, Danzo's ferocious expression froze, and he suddenly felt that the world in his field of vision was turning upside down. He saw that his headless body was still in the rushing position. He saw a blonde figure slowly walking out in the scattered dust on the opposite side, his eyes cold. After running for a certain distance under the influence of inertia, Danzo's body fell in the rubble. His head rolled away several meters away, and he died with his eyes open. Naruto raised his head, his blue eyes suddenly moistened, looking at the blonde figure walking slowly. "Uncle!" Naruto ran over and threw himself into Namikaze Mirai's arms. A big hand stroked Naruto's blonde hair, and a soft smile appeared in Namikaze Mirai's eyes. "You're not hurt, are you?" "No." Naruto shook his head and wiped the tears from his eyes. "Uncle, I'm very strong. I was not scared at all." "Ha ha ha, he is indeed my nephew." Not far away, Danzo's body that fell in the ruins suddenly disappeared, like an eraser appearing out of thin air, wiping away his body. This abnormality naturally did not escape Namikaze Mirai's eyes. There was a hint of coldness in his eyes. "Eyes energy. Ha, if I kill you once, I can kill you 1,000 times." From Fugaku's mouth, Namikaze Mirai knew the information about Ai's energy. But, so what? No matter how many times Danzo is resurrected, he will always kill him. 100 meters away from the place of death, Danzo reappeared, breathing heavily and his eyes full of horror. Just one hit, when he rushed towards Naruto. Although he lost his mind, he relied on the vigilance gained from decades of life and death. Can't even take a single move. If Ai's energy hadn't activated his right eye before death, he might have really died. He bit his finger and slapped it on the ground. As a burst of white smoke dissipated, the huge body of the Meng Taper appeared in the ruins. "Danzo, why did you suddenly call me out?" Meng Taper was a little unhappy when he noticed the surrounding scene. His expression froze. "Danzo, where is this place?" "The fourth ninja war broke out. This is the base of the root. Let's chat later. Deal with the enemy in front of you first." "Root base?" Meng Taper was stunned. Such a large ruin is actually the root base. What a joke. The root base was knocked down. Is Senju Hashirama resurrected? But seeing Danzo's extremely nervous expression, Meng Zhi didn't dare to raise his eyebrows and looked at the enemy opposite him with great caution. "Do it, Danzo!" roared. Meng Taper suddenly opened his mouth, and a terrifying suction force erupted from his mouth. Rubbles, broken walls, and almost all objects in front were all sucked in. Around Namikaze Mirai, countless broken ruins flew away from him, but he was the only one standing tall. Naruto was protected by magnetic fluid and was not affected. "Meng Taper, please hold on for a while. I'm going to prepare a special technique." But, hearing Danzo's voice, Meng Zhi didn't hesitate and sucked hard. Namikaze Mirai moved like a flash of lightning and instantly came to the dream taper. Meng Taper's pupils shrank, completely unpredicted that Namikaze's future speed would be so terrifying. Boom. Namikaze Mirai punched him with a burst of teeth-piercing cracking sounds and blood splattering everywhere. The terrifying suction force suddenly stopped. and the main taper's body flew backwards like a cannonball point. After rolling hundreds of meters in the ruins and smashing several walls, it gradually stopped. The dream taper felt like the world was spinning. His skull, which could withstand Kune, was deeply dented, and the blood was flowing. Danzo, are you okay, dream? Taper asked weakly. Glancing in the direction of Danzo, he saw that the other party was running like crazy, and there was no sign of fighting. Danzo summoned you just to act as a human shield. Namikaze Mirai stepped on the dream taper's head, looking indifferently. The strength under his feet suddenly increased. Danzo, you shameless. Boom. The dream taper turns into smoke in anger. Chapter 57 Sarutobi, if you stop me, I will kill you too. After getting rid of the dream taper, Namikaze Mirai turned his attention to Danzo, who was fleeing. Sensing the bone eviscerating chill behind his back, Danzo's scalp went numb, and he immediately formed 4 shadow clones together with the main body. They ran in different directions in the smoke. I want to use this to confuse Namikaze in the future. This move caused Namikaze Mirai to sneer. It seems that you still don't know. Transformation techniques and clone techniques have no effect on me. He raised his right index finger, and a small silver snake swam out from the cuff and condensed into the shape of a small ball on his fingertip. A blue arc of electricity flashed past. Boom. Danzo's expression suddenly changed. His eyes were full of disbelief. His eyes moved downward with trembling, and a huge hole as thick as a bowl suddenly appeared on his chest. Bloody horror. How is it possible? My shadow clone. Before he finished speaking, the fallen body disappeared again like a mirror and a moon in the water. Oh. The second time, Namikaze Mirai, standing high above the ruins, had a hint of surprise in his blue eyes. It seems that Danzo has a lot of inventory. However, this is fine. Just enough to torture him a little longer. Where will this resurrection be? Namikaze Mirai looked around the ruins with a faint smile in his eyes. Danzo's eyes energy is obviously not comparable to the orthodox Uchiha. It seemed to last only a minute. Sure enough, he soon sensed Danzo's biomagnetic field in a corner. At this moment, he was crawling in the ruins, using the gravel to cover his body, and moving forward bit by bit. If Namikaze hadn't been able to sense biomagnetic fields in the future, and had searched with his naked eyes, he might have been fooled by him. Hold on. I must hold on. Danzo, who was crawling in the corner of the ruins, ignored emotions such as humiliation. At this moment, he had only one thought in his mind. Escape. Hiruzen and the others must have noticed such a big movement, and were on their way there. As long as he persists until they arrive, Hiruzen will definitely not watch himself being killed by Namikaze Mirai. Snort. So what if the roots are gone? As long as I'm still here, there will always be a day when I can make a comeback. Suddenly, the left hand that moved forward touched a shoe. Danzo's eyes froze, and he raised his head tremblingly. I saw Namikaze Mirai bending his upper body and looking down at him with eyes that seemed to be smiling, but not smiling. Danzo felt excited. I'm not willing to give in. His 3 Magatama stocks only had 3 in total, and now 2 have been consumed. If he dies again this time, there is only 1 life left. Namikaze Mirai stepped down, and Danzo's head exploded like a watermelon, splattering red and white. Almost at the same time, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Uchiha Fugaku and others also rushed to the battlefield. The scene where Namikaze Mirai stepped on Danzo's head was witnessed by Hiruzen Sarutobi. His pupils suddenly shrank. He felt dizzy and almost fell down from midair. Hokage-sama, the Anbu beside him quickly supported him. Died. Danzo is dead. Was his head crushed by being stepped on by Namikaze Mirai like that? Died of frustration. Uchiha Fugaku, Hinata Hinashi and other Konoha senior officials who came over looked at the tragic ruins and suddenly felt their breathing heavy and almost breathless. The roots were knocked down. Is Danzo dead too? There was no joy on Namikaze Mirai's face, and Danzo's body, whose head was crushed by a trample, disappeared. He squinted and continued to look for traces of Danzo. Judging from the Sharingan on his body, this should be the last time. Hiruzen, save me. Sarutobi. Hiruzen, who was immersed in the sorrow of Danzo's death, heard Danzo's weak voice coming from nearby. Before he could recover, looking in shock, he found Danzo appearing near him out of thin air. Danzo, you're not dead. I used a secret technique to save my life. It's my last life. If I die this time, I will really die. Danzo placed all his hopes on Sarutobi Hiruzen. Hiruzen has arrived, as well as other high-level officials of Konoha. A large number of Konoha ninjas have arrived around the ruins of the root base point. As long as Hiruzen is willing to protect him, maybe he can really survive. Sarutobi Hiruzen gritted his teeth and looked at Namikaze Mirai's position and took a breath. I don't know how Danzo provoked you, but after beating the roots like this and killing so many ninjas, your anger should be gone, right? I can give you enough compensation as long as you let Danzo go, Sarutobi Hiruzen said sincerely. The conditions he offered were already quite generous. Not only did he not hold Namikaze accountable for causing trouble in the future, but he was willing to bear everything and fully compensate the other party. In his opinion, Namikaze would agree to such a big concession in the future. He just finished speaking. Just listen to Namikaze Mirai throwing his head back and laughing. Laughter echoed in the bloody ruins. Danzo and the Anbu behind Hiruzen Sarutobi felt terrified when they heard the laughter. Sarutobi, can you afford to compensate my nephew? Hearing these words, Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart skipped a beat. Really, only Naruto can make Namikaze Mirai so angry. He had been holding on to a fantasy in his mind before, hoping that Danzo had provoked him for other reasons, but now, this illusion has been shattered. Danzo is a shadow assistant in the village. As long as you don't kill him, you can make whatever conditions you want. Sarutobi Hiruzen gritted his teeth and increased the conditions. Danzo behind him swallowed, his forehead already covered with cold sweat. This was the first time in his life that he felt so close to death. Sarutobi, would you like to take a good look at Danzo's right arm? Namikaze Mirai sneered. Arm. Sarutobi Hiruzen was startled. Since arriving, he had been highly tense and had not noticed Danzo's arm at all. After hearing Namikaze Mirai's reminder, Uchiha Fugaku and others who rushed around immediately looked at Danzo's right arm. This is Uchiha Fugaku's pupils shrank. My clan's Sharingan. Although the Sharingan on Danzo's arm has been closed, Fugaku knows very well that it is the trace of using Ai's energy. Thinking back to Danzo's resurrection just now, everything becomes clear. Pairs of Sharingan eyes lit up one after another, and the Uchiha who came over panted heavily, staring at Danzo who was being protected by Hiruzen Sarutobi. That luck seemed to eat him alive. Sarutobi Hiruzen's body trembled. I understood something instantly. Danzo, you idiot. There were several bloodshot streaks in his eyes. I told you, you can't save him today. Namikaze Mirai's cold voice spread from the air in the sky. Countless metal sword blades appeared out of nothing, reflecting cold light, like a burst of dark clouds, and the entire sky darkened in an instant. Otherwise, just his life can't quell my anger. Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression was struggling, his eyes full of pain and entanglement. Finally, he sighed. Danzo, this is for Konoha. He stepped aside heavily, as if he had aged more than 10 years. Namikaze Mirai moved his fingers slightly, and the sword blades in the sky flew towards Danzo. No, Hiruzen, you will regret it. Danzo's eyes were about to burst. The body was crushed by the sword blade and turned into a shower of blood. This time, he was not resurrected. All Ai's energy has been used up. None of the Konoha ninjas who arrived spoke. Silence. Only endless silence shrouded the ruins. Namikaze Mirai walked towards Naruto's position and gently wiped the tears from Naruto's face with his blood-stained fingers. Naruto, uncle will take you home. Chapter 58 Would Escape Ninja. Hokage-sama, the casualty statistics of the root base have been released. The death toll exceeds 70%. The root base has been completely destroyed, and important departments such as the laboratory storage room have also been severely damaged. In the Hokage room, the Enbu who was reporting with the list kept narrating. Every time he said a word, Sarutobi Hiruzen's face would turn pale. Until the end, it was almost bloodless, and its back was hunched together, as if it had aged by more than 10 years. Danzo is dead. The roots were also destroyed. The loss was so great that, even if he wanted to rebuild, it was almost impossible to achieve it. Danzo, his right-hand man, died in such a ridiculous way. The Shimura clan searched for a long time in the ruins before finding some of Danzo's remaining flesh and hair and buried him wrapped in the clothes in front of him. Barely it can be considered a grave. Until now, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't figure it out. Why did Danzo attack Naruto? Sitting next to them, Koharu and Mito Kadoyan, who were sleeping in the dormitory, had equally pale and ugly faces. To their left was Danzo's position. All major meetings are usually discussed here by the four of them. But now, only 3 of the 4 are left. The position belonging to Danzo was completely empty. Lord Hokage, there is another matter that I must report to you. The Anbu report sounded solemn. We found a ninja who mastered wood escape in the ruins of the roots. What? As soon as he finished speaking, Sarutobi Hiruzen took a breath. His eyes widened, and he stared at him with shock and disbelief. Mugen? Are you sure it's Mugen? There was a hint of heat in his breath. Would release. That is the ability mastered by Senju Hashirama, Konoha's first Hokage. Senju Hashirama quelled the chaos of the Warring States period and single-handedly created the era of one country and one village. When Sarutobi Hiruzen was young, he witnessed the power of wood escape with his own eyes. It is no exaggeration to say that it can destroy the world. Yes, we found him in the ruins at the root, because he used the wood escape technique to block the impact of the collapse of the base. He was only slightly injured, and not seriously injured. Wood escapes the wooden spindle wall. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a breath. This is the defensive ninjutsu of Mugen. Curved wooden pillars grow on the ground to protect oneself. Since Anbu can accurately name this technique. So this news is most likely true. Where is that wooden release ninja? Take me to him quickly. Anbu. Base. In a medical room, a brown-haired boy in his early 10 years, with his arm wrapped in bandages, was sitting quietly in the corner. Squeak. The door to the medical room was pushed open. The boy instinctively took out his kunai and stared at Sarutobi Hiruzen with a vigilant posture. This move made Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression freeze. Hokage-sama, please forgive A for being rude. He stays at the root all year round and has a withdrawn and closed personality. He has never met you. The Anbu next to him quickly explained. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded slightly to show his understanding. He knew very well the environment of Anbu, which was several times crueler and cold-blooded than Anbu. Growing up in this kind of environment, it's normal for him to be wary of strangers. You just said his name is A. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the Anbu beside him. Yes, we tried to communicate with him, and all we got was the short name A first. It really fits Danzo's naming characteristics. Sarutobi Hiruzen had a kind smile on his face, like the grandfather next door, trying to use this method to dispel Koru's wariness against him. Can you show grandpa your wood escape? Mew. Dun has so much to do with it. Just listening to these Anbu reports is not enough. It must be verified with your own eyes. Koharu, who came with him, and Mito Menon, who came with him, also held their breaths and stared at Cory hopefully. The medical room fell silent for a moment. Everyone's eyes were focused on A amid the scorching heat. A nodded, stretched out his right hand, and spread it out. In the white palm, a bud grows windingly. There seemed to be fire rising in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes. Would escape. It's really Mugen. Since the death of Senju Hashirama, Mugen, which has been extinct for decades, has finally been reborn. God bless my Konoha. God bless my Konoha. Indescribable excitement surged out of Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart. Anyone can see his joy at this moment. Next to them, Koharu and Mito Kadoyan, who were sleeping, also showed strong excitement, and excitement in their eyes. Would escape has a completely different meaning to Konoha. It is the ability of the first Hokage Senju Hashirama to calm down troubled times. A is still so young and has endless possibilities for the future. It is not impossible to grow to a level close to Senju Hashirama. Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly felt that Danzo's death was not so sad anymore. He even wanted to thank Danzo. If it hadn't been for him, Konoha would not have had a ninja with wood release. He had some vague guesses about A's origin. Many years ago, he had supported Danzo's experiments related to the wood release at the roots. However, because there was no progress in the experiment, he ordered it to be shut down. After consuming a lot of Konoha's resources, it now seems that Danzo did not choose to give up at that time, but continued to research in private. Finally, the armor was successfully born. You are a gift from God to Konoha. The name A will be abandoned from now on. I will give you a new name, Tenzo. How about Tenzo? Sarutobi Hiruzen stared at A with burning eyes, as if waiting for his response. Cheyenne, Zhang, A. tilted his head and murmured point it seems that he recognized the name. Okay. Sarutobi. Hiruzen was so excited that he burst into tears. The appearance of Tenzo is a symbol of fortune, and it is especially valuable for Konoha, which is now at the bottom of the valley. Maybe we can also use Tenzo to invite Tsunade back to the village. Tsunade, one of the 3 ninjas of Konoha, is also the princess of Konoha, but due to various reasons, she gradually deviates from the village point. He even did not hesitate to leave Konoha and wandered around major casinos all year round. Sarutobi Hiruzen was extremely troubled by this. He tried various methods, but could not invite Tsunade back. But the appearance of Cheyenne Zhang undoubtedly gave this matter a new turn. The same would escape as his grandfather might also be related by blood, and he might be able to use this reason to invite Tsunade back to the village. Ever since Namikaze Mirai returned to the village, huge commotions have occurred one after another. Sarutobi Hiruzen's desire to have Tsunade return to the village had never been stronger. As one of the 3 ninjas, the princess of Konoha, and the granddaughter of the first Hokage, no matter what her identity is, she is not inferior to the blue flashing Namikaze Mirai. Namikaze Mirai has openly set his sights on the position of Hokage. Then find him the strongest competitor. The 5th generation will be born from these 2. Chapter 59. Things like other gods are ineffective against those with strong magnetic fields. Uchiha was excited. The tribe celebrated for 3 days and 3 nights, just because Danzo, who had been targeting them, died. The situation of the Uchiha clan has improved as never before. Since the night of the Nine Tails, the Uchiha clan has been forced to move to the edge of Konoha, and has been targeted by Konoha's top brass. Even in the village, he was often reviled by the villagers behind his back. Every Uchiha clan member feels aggrieved. The dignified Uchiha clan, one of the 2 major families founded in Konoha, has actually fallen into this situation. How could they, who are arrogant by nature, accept this kind of thing? Now, Namikaze Mirai finally vented his anger on them. Kill Danzo. Destroy the roots. Use your own efforts to reverse the situation in Konoha. Future brother, I'd like to toast you. In the Izakaya, Uchiha Inari raised his head and drank all the wine in the wine cup. His cheeks were flushed, and with the help of alcohol, he expressed all his admiration for Namikaze Mirai. I, Inari, have never admired anyone in my life, but your future, Namikaze, is different. You might become a ninja like our ancestor Madara. This complimentary comment about Inoho. The surrounding Uchiha Setsuna, Tiho and others did not feel anything was wrong. Uchiha Madara, the ancestor of Konoha village during its founding period, his strength is unrivaled in the ninja world. Except for the pervert Senju Hashirama, he has never failed in his life. To stand shoulder to shoulder with such a legendary ninja, it might really be possible for Namikaze Mirai. Uchiha Setsuna smiled extremely brightly. He was indeed not wrong in his bet. Seizing the future of Namikaze is equivalent to seizing the future of the Uchiha clan. Namikaze Mirai has proven his worth with his strength. It is definitely the right choice for Uchiha to bind him. Until Namikaze becomes the 5th Hokage in the future. Uchiha will be the core of Naruto's power. Maybe it's not impossible to give birth to the next Hokage. Among the celebrating clan members, there was only one person with complicated eyes. He only drank wine alone, and did not participate in the discussion. Uchiha Shizu. The moderate representative of the Uchiha clan. Namikaze Mirai's tough demeanor made him extremely worried. Before Namikaze came to the Uchiha clan in the future, there were only 2 factions in the Uchiha clan. The moderate faction headed by him, and the radical faction headed by Setsuna Uchiha. Since Namikaze Mirai came to the Uchiha clan through his selection and training, the 3rd largest faction was born. Mad radicals think that moderates are too weak, and lunatics think that radicals are too weak. The group of Uchiha lunatics trained by Namikaze Mirai were always clamoring to break into the Hokage building. Every day, when the sun sets, you can see a group of Uchiha with red eyes, shirtless and brutally training on the banks of the Nanga River, shouting something like "Restore the glory of Uchiha. Make Uchiha great again." etc. Shisu was worried about this as a moderate. He found it difficult to agree with Namikaze Mirai's approach. What Shisu didn't notice was that his performance was all noticed by Namikaze Mirai. The reception is over. Uchiha Shisu, who was full of worries, returned early, and now he is in deep confusion. He felt like he was standing at a huge crossroads and didn't know which way to go. Suddenly, his steps stopped. Staring at the blonde figure that appeared in front of him. Namikaze Mirai, future master, what do you want from me? Just as Shisu opened his mouth, Namikaze Mirai suddenly moved, and a big hand came towards him. His pupils shrank, and Shisu immediately distanced himself. In his red eyes, 3 Magatama spun into the shape of a shuriken. On the surface of the body, emerald green ribs emerge. Future Sama, why are you attacking me? Zishu's nerves were tense to the extreme, and the protruding palm actually stopped in midair. Sure enough, Itachi is right. You have really awakened the kaleidoscope. Namikaze Mirai looked at the special patterns at Uchiha Shisu's red eyes with great interest. The sudden attack just now was just to force Shisu to use the kaleidoscope to deal with it. Zishu's heart sank. I vaguely guessed something. Did Itachi tell you that he had only told Itachi the information about these kaleidoscopes? Namikaze Mirai smiled and said nothing, looking at the alert Shisu opposite. Shisu, you don't seem to approve of what I'm doing. Zishu's heart skipped a beat. He probably guessed Namikaze's intention of coming here in the future. I just hope that the conflicts between the village and the family can be resolved through dialogue. Your approach seems a bit too extreme. Shisu's eyes were complicated. He has always sincerely hoped that the village and family could live in harmony. Able to communicate with each other and understand each other instead of conquering by force. Whether it's blood in the village or blood in the family, Shisu doesn't want to see it. Too naive. Mirai. Namikaze defines Shisu's thoughts. Understanding is based on strength. Blindly placing hope on dialogue and understanding can only make oneself passive and become the prey of others. You only saw me using force to intimidate those high-level officials, but did you see that they were plotting to engulf Uchiha? Only strength can make the other party sit down calmly and discuss things that they understand with you. Namikaze Mirai's cognition is very pure. He only believes in power. Only the shock of strength can bring understanding and tolerance. This is why, after he came to Uchiha, he vigorously developed Uchiha's combat power and personally trained the Uchiha people. Suspicion, suppression, and targeting will all disappear with the growth of strength. At that time, those high-level officials will pray to Uchiha to understand them, rather than them to understand Uchiha. Zishu remained silent. He still couldn't agree. The blind development of force can bring peace. At this moment, Namikaze Mirai's voice came to his ears, making his body stiffen and sending chills down his spine. Those eyes of yours should have the ability to modify the will of others, right? Maybe you can choose to use those eyes to modify my will. Shisu's hands and feet were cold and he swallowed. Itachi, did you even tell you this? No. Got, the pupil technique lodged in his eyes has the ability to modify the will of others. If another god is used to change Namikaze's future will, maybe it will change the direction of Uchiha. Namikaze Mirai looked at him calmly, his blue eyes facing the kaleidoscope and the shape of Shisu Shuriken. There is no one else here. If you use it here, no one will find it. So, do you want to use it? There was a hint of temptation in Namikaze Mirai's voice, as if he was urging Shisu to use another god on him. Shisu held his breath, and a drop of cold sweat slowly slid down his forehead. Looking at Namikaze Mirai, he was very stressed. It was as if the surrounding air had solidified. In the end, he shook his head. No, I won't use another god on you. Shisu cannot tamper with the will of others just because of their different ideas. This is something Shisu cannot do. Wise choice. Namikaze Mirai looked at him deeply. Modifying one's will seems noble. But the so-called will, broadly speaking, is a kind of thinking logic. It is composed of various complex electrical impulses of nerve signals. Once the will changes, the way of thinking will change, and the nerve electrical impulses and brain magnetic field will all change accordingly. Namikaze Mirai is very clear about the frequency band of his brain's magnetic field. With the electromagnetic force he controls, he can reverse abnormal nerve electrical impulses and return his brain's magnetic field to normal. In other words, the negative influence of other gods on him. He can correct himself. Time will prove to you that my choice is correct. Namikaze Mirai smiled slightly. Don't worry, it shouldn't be long. All plots related to Shizu have been revised. Chapter 60 Tsunade, Danzo is dead. What a good death. Fire Nation. A remote town. Shizune held the pink dolphin in her arms and squatted in the shadow of the corner. He stared at the exit of the casino opposite with extremely nervous eyes. 10, 9, 8, 1. Number after another came out of her mouth. 5, 4, 3, A. Long time after she checked in, she heard a loud noise, and the door to the casino exit was suddenly violently blasted open. A little lolly with blonde hair and ponytail emerged from the turbulent smoke and debris. Shizune, run! At the same time that the blonde ponytail lolly rushed out, a group of big men with benches, tables, and chairs in their hands came out from behind. Cursing. Shizune ran away, and the pink dolphin she held in her arm shivered in fear and shrank into her arm. Shizune shouted, following Tsunade, at Tsunade-sama, why were you kicked out 3 seconds earlier this time? I'm so unlucky this time. At Tsunade's indignant voice came from the front. The two ran for a long time before they found a deserted alley, ran in and hid in the dark. The pursuer didn't notice them and rushed through the alley to catch up. The two of them breathed a sigh of relief. What a close call. I almost got caught. At Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief. Lala's figure began to change, and two turbulent objects that were about to come out were pushed out. During the shaking, amazing elasticity exploded. Shizune watched this change at close range. Even though she had seen it many times, she couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Such amazing elasticity. You are indeed the big fat sheep. At Tsunade-sama, let's go. She ducked her head out of the alley, glanced around cautiously, and after making sure there was no one nearby, Tsunade waved Shizune away. Before taking a few steps, Tsunade's footsteps suddenly stopped. Her eyes became cold. The corner of his eye swept to a corner of the street. Come out. Not long after her voice fell, several Anbu wearing animal masks jumped down from the tree. Tsunade-sama, I finally found you. The two weather-beaten Anbu finally found Tsunade after going through many difficulties and obstacles, and were so excited that they almost had tears in their eyes. Now that Tsunade has been found, the mission assigned to them by Lord Hokage can be completed. You want to persuade me to go back to the village, right? Don't waste your efforts. There is no way I can go back. Tsunade's tone was very strong. Without even looking at the two Anbu, he planned to leave. Shizune followed her with Dodo in her arms. Don't go. Tsunade-sama. The two roots immediately became anxious. If Tsunade left like this, how could they go back and explain to the Hokage? Breaking news immediately. Danzo is dead. Tsunade paused in her steps, with shock in her eyes. Danzo, Sarutobi Hiruzen's shadow assistant. The ambitious and silent leader of the Roots actually died? She wanders around major casinos all year round, and has almost no source of information from the outside world. The only channel is to inquire occasionally, when Zion goes out to buy supplies, but Shizune hasn't been out for a long time, and she doesn't know anything about what happened in Konoha village recently. But so what? The steps she took continued forward. Tsunade looked indifferent. To die is to die. Tsunade had never had a good impression of a careerist like Danzo. If she hadn't been the princess of Konoha and had a special status, Danzo might have studied her blood because of her blood relationship with Senju Hashirama. Seeing Tsunade's determination, the two Anbu became anxious and released another bombshell news. A mutant ninja was discovered in the village. This time Tsunade didn't take a step forward. She breathed rapidly. A burning color suddenly appeared in her eyes, and she turned her head. Ah, you sure it's Mudan? Inside an izakaya in a small town. Tsunade played with the wine glass in her hand. When he glanced at the two Anbu wearing masks next to him, there was a bit of surprise in his eyes. You mean Namikaze returned to the village in the future? Yes. Anbu wiped the sweat from his forehead. It was really not easy to get Tsunade, one of the three ninjas, to sit down and listen to them. It's that boy Minato's younger brother? I didn't expect that he would return to the village at this time after missing for 3 years. Tsunade grabbed the wine on the table and drank it in one gulp. After drinking, my cheeks turned a little red. Of course she was no stranger to Namikaze Mirai as a senin. Minato was Jiraiya's disciple, and Jiraiya's boy would praise Minato's talent in front of her from time to time, and would also praise the two brothers. However, Namikaze Mirai's style is indeed strong. During the 3 battles, although she could only stay in the backup battlefield due to hemophobia, she heard about Minato and Mirai's achievements from time to time. Yellow glitter and blue glitter Konohas to color flash, a name that frightens enemies. Tsunade felt melancholy, grabbed another glass of wine, and drank it. He placed the empty wine glass on the table, and glanced at the two Anbu with a playful look. So, after Namikaze Mirai came back, and saw his nephew being abused, he made a fuss in Konoha in anger. The old man had a headache because of this matter. Want to invite me back to the village? Tsunade-sama, please don't say that. An Anbu was sweating profusely. He immediately explained, Jinchuriki have never been abused. Yeah, the amusement in Tsunade's eyes deepened. She remembered, however, that since the deaths of Minato and Kushina, Naruto had basically been in a free-range state. A child of 2 or 3 years old, living alone. How good can it be? It is normal for Namikaze Mirai to be angry. If Kushina is resurrected, the village may be in turmoil. Duanzo was also killed by him. Tsunade asked casually as she grabbed a glass of wine. Yes, sure. Enough. Tsunade's eyes lit up slightly. In the village, Namikaze Mirai was probably the only one who dared to kill Danzo in such a big way. That guy has never been a peaceful person. An Anbu hurriedly reminded Tsunade-sama, Danzo is Konoha's shadow assistant after all, and is a close friend of your teacher Sarutobi Hiruzen. Please respect him a little. Cut. Tsunade disagreed and grabbed a glass of wine and drank it down. Danzo's death might be a good thing for Konoha. After drinking the glass of wine, her eyes suddenly became clear, and her eyes became serious when looking at the two Anbu. Tell me about that wood escape ninja. Of all the information these two Anbu told, only the wooden ninja was the one she cared about the most. Seeing that Tsunade finally got serious, the Anbu said immediately, his name is Tenzo. He was originally a member of Danzo's roots. Danzo was killed by Namikaze Mirai, so they discovered him. Listen to the Anbu's narration. Tsunade was deep in thought. If a wooden ninja was really born in Konoha, maybe it would be necessary to go back and see. After his grandfather Senju Hashirama, he was the second wood escaper in history. Chapter 61 The 5th GENERATION -039 battle. A new era is coming. Tsunade agreed to return to the village. In the Hokage room, upon hearing the news from the Anbu, Hiruzen Sarutobi lost his grip on the pipe in excitement and dropped it to the ground. It's absolutely true. Tsunade-sama has agreed to return to the village. The Anbu who reported the report also had a hint of joy in his eyes. After getting Tsunade's answer, they immediately returned to Konoha without stopping. I need to report this surprising news to the Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath to calm down the joy in his heart. Konoha right now can be described as a mess. Danzo was dead, and without his help, the pressure on his shoulders increased several times in an instant. As long as Tsunade returns to the village, all this can finally change. The Anbu hesitated for a moment and added, it's just that Tsunade-sama has a condition. She doesn't want to participate in political struggles. She just wants to come back and see the wooden ninja. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. I understand. Tsunade didn't like to get involved in a fight, and he certainly knew that. But as long as Tsunade comes back and returns to Konoha village, there will be room for manipulation of many things. Namikaze Mirai, Minato's younger brother, almost openly admitted that he had his eye on the Hokage's position. But becoming Hokage cannot be achieved simply by strength. The election of Hokage has 3 stages. The first stage is to determine the Hokage candidate, who must have all 3 qualities of strength, reputation and ability to be elected. The second stage is the Jonin voting, and the competition is the power behind the candidates. The Hokage candidate with the most Jonin votes will eventually succeed as Hokage. Namikaze Mirai has an obvious disadvantage in this regard. Uchiha is almost the only force behind him. Even if everyone votes for him, he is still inferior to Tsunade. As the granddaughter of Senju Hashirama and the princess of Konoha, Tsunade is deeply rooted in the Konoha masses. It is definitely not something that Namikaze can easily shake in the future. Sarutobi Hiruzen has decided to use all his strength to push Tsunade to the 5th generation. We must build momentum for Tsunade first. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath and made up his mind. He groaned. Spread the news immediately and say that Tsunade, the princess of Konoha, will return to the village in the near future. Yes, the half-kneeling and Boo responded immediately. Is Tsunade-sama finally going back to the village? Great. The princess of Konoha is coming back. With Sarutobi Hiruzen's push behind the scenes, the news that Tsunade wanted to return to the village spread throughout the village almost overnight. The older generation of villagers were so excited that they had tears in their eyes. They were those who had personally experienced the Senju Hashirama era, so they paid more attention to Tsunade's bloodline. Is the princess of Konoha finally coming back? Ninjas from all major ninja clans also received the news immediately. But unlike the villagers, most of these ninjas were keen and sensed a hint of political undertones in this news. Unlike ordinary villagers, they have learned much more intelligence and information. With this advantage, we can better guess the meaning behind it. Konoha right now is riddled with holes. The news of Tsunade's return to the village was released with great fanfare, naturally to give the sluggish village a shot in the arm. No. Not just Tsunade. News of the wooden ninja also spread in the village. After Senju Hashirama, the second wooden ninja born in Konoha village, also caused a heated discussion in the village. Even combined with the news of Tsunade's return to the village, a strange chemical reaction occurred, making this discussion even more heated. While the outside discussion was heated, in the Uchiha clan, Namikaze Mirai and Uchiha Fugaku were leisurely sipping tea. It was as if the enthusiasm of the outside world had nothing to do with them. Sarutobi Hiruzen probably wants to push Tsunade to the 5th generation position. After careful consideration, Uchiha Fugaku said this in a deep voice. This kind of fanfare, even releasing the news of the wooden ninja, is completely inconsistent with Sarutobi Hiruzen's usual style. The only possibility is that he has a deeper purpose. After much deliberation, Uchiha Fugaku could only think of this possibility. He's afraid. Namikaze Mirai put the teacup on the table, with a hint of contempt and amusement in the corner of his mouth. Danzo is dead. The next step is to start. It's the fight for the 5th generation position. How could Sarutobi Hiruzen just watch him become Hokage? The bigger the movement, the harder it is to hide his fear. Sarutobi Hiruzen was already panicking, and had no choice but to choose a path. Uchiha Fugaku nodded in agreement. The only person who can scare the strongest Hokage in history, recorded in the textbooks, is Namikaze Mirai. It seems that the Jonin vote is the focus of the next round of competition. Namikaze Mirai smiled faintly. He could guess what Sarutobi Hiruzen was thinking. If there is more than one candidate, Hokage's final election will depend on the number of Jonin votes. To evict the final winner, Tsunade had deep-rooted support in Konoha. As the granddaughter of the ninja god, this identity will bring her extra votes. Sarutobi Hiruzen wants to snipe him on this road. What should we do in the future? Uchiha Fugaku felt a little nervous. The number of Uchiha's Jounin is not low, and they can be called the ninja clan with the most Jounin in Konoha. However, the number of Jounin in the Uchiha clan alone could not be compared to Tsunade, who was fully supported by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Once you lose the Jonin vote, don't panic. Namikaze Mirai looked quite calm. If my guess is correct, there will probably be some movement in the villages outside. Danzo is dead, and his roots were all killed. Konoha's overall strength has declined sharply again. Namikaze Mirai didn't believe that the villagers would not notice such a big movement. It is estimated that it is already ready to make a move. Perhaps there will be a new round of temptation. But this is also a huge opportunity. The ninja god of the past will never be as good as the ninja god of today. The era of Senju Hashirama has passed. A new era is coming. Fugaku, a strong wind is coming. How far you can fly with this wind depends on your choice. Namikaze Mirai looked at Fugaku opposite the low table with a faint smile. Uchiha Fugaku held his breath. His eyes started to heat up. He knew that this was what Namikaze wanted to hear from him in the future. Looking at the smiling blunt face in front of him, Fugaku's thoughts echoed, recalling the scene where Namikaze Mirai explained his dream. He wants to change the ninja world, starting with Uchiha, then Konoha, and finally the entire ninja world, riding on the wave of Namikaze Mirai. Uchiha will fly very high. Uchiha. Fugaku's eyes turned red, and he took a deep breath. The voice was solemn and sincere. In the future, no matter what, Uchiha will advance and retreat with you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62. Tsunade decides to visit Namikaze Mirai. Tsunade returned to the village. Walking in the streets of the village, listening to the heated discussions about her by the surrounding villagers, her face was as black as charcoal. What is the old man doing? Didn't I already say that I just came back for a look? Why did I make such a big noise? Fortunately, she had the foresight to use a transformation technique in advance. Otherwise a large number of excited villagers would have gathered around her, blocking the way. Hiruzen Sarutobi, who had already received news of Tsunade's return to the village, was waiting nervously in the Hokage's room. This was the first time that he expected Tsunade to return to the village. There were sweat stains on the palms of my hands due to nervousness. Suddenly, the door to the Hokage's room was violently pushed open. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes lit up. There were only two people who could break into the Hokage's room in this way. Danzo is dead. Only, old man. What are you doing? Didn't you already emphasize that the news of my return must be kept secret? Tsunade pressed one hand on the door frame, looking quite unhappy. Along the way, every villager actually knew that she was going back to the village, making her seem like a transparent person. Just come back. Just come back, Sarutobi. Hiruzen's wrinkled face smiled like a chrysanthemum, and he stepped forward to greet him. Stop it, Tsunade leaned back in disgust. I made it very clear that I came back just to see Xianzang. Wait a moment, I will call Xianzang over immediately. Sarutobi. Hiruzen found an Anbu and gave him some instructions. After a while, Tenzo, wearing Anbu uniform, appeared in the Hokage room with a ninja sword on his back. Hokage-sama, you are looking for me. After accepting the news of Danzo's death, Tenzo's identity has changed from a root to an Anbu. The same dark base, the same daily training, but the attention received is much more than that at the base. Tsunade looked Tenzo up and down. There is a mask on his face, but it's not hard to see the young lady's appearance. There was no physical resemblance to her great-grandfather Senju Hashirama. It's not like the blood of some uncle or uncle. Xianzang, can you show me your wood escape? Nodding, Xianzang stretched out his right hand, and in his palm, a young sapling sprouted. Wood escape. It's really mutant. Tsunade's eyes burned. Although he is still very immature, he does have the same aura as his great-grandfather, and is definitely mutant. After so many years of silence, is a new mutant finally born? Take good care of this child. Tsunade turned to stare at Sarutobi Hiruzen. He reminded you in a warning tone, Mudan is not a tool for you to abuse. If anything happens to him, old man, I will not forgive you. Cough. Cough. Of course, Sarutobi. Hiruzen could only cough to cover up his embarrassment. She knew that Tsunade was implying that he would take Tenzo into the Anbu. As soon as he escaped from the clutches of the roots, he fell into the pit of Anbu. Tsunade was dissatisfied with this decision. Mudan should be well protected. Rather than just moving from one place to another like a tool. Don't worry, I have decided to train Xianzang with all my strength. As the second owner of the wood release blood successor in history, his potential is unlimited. Sarutobi. Hiruzen's solemn and sincere promise. This is what he thinks. He wants Tenzo to train into a figure like Senju Hashirama, with the same wood release. Maybe he can do it one day in the future. Xianzang, who was listening to the conversation between the two, suddenly felt a warm hand covering his head. The name Tenzo is too old-fashioned. I'll give you a new name. How about Yamato? The Carefree Tsunade decided on a new name for Tenzo almost without thinking. Yamato. Before Tenzo could recover, he saw Sarutobi Hiruzen's face stiffen next to him. He had just decided on the name Tenzo not long ago, but he didn't expect that he would have to change it as soon as Tsunade came back. But speaking of it, Tsunade, as the granddaughter of Senju Hashirama, is indeed qualified to change Tenzo's name. So he nodded. Then Tenzo, from now on you will be called Yamato. But, Yamato, nodded dully. Compared to Tenzo, the name Yamato does seem to sound better. After receiving a brand new name, Yamato left. Tsunade and Hiruzen Sarutobi were left alone in the Hokage room again. Old man, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Wait, before Tsunade could take a step forward, she was stopped by Sarutobi Hiruzen behind her. He glanced over his head and said in a slightly unhappy tone, "Old man, I made it very clear, don't try to use those political things on me." Since the old man succeeded to the throne, the village has become a mess. Konoha, the head of the 5 great ninja villages, is full of intrigues and intrigues. Tsunade hated that kind of thing. So she would rather leave the village and wander around the casino. It's different this time. I beg you, Tsunade. Sarutobi Hiruzen lowered his posture and looked almost pleading. Sarutobi Hiruzen had never asked for help from anyone in his life, but this time was different. In the past few days, the image of Danzo's death had been replaying in his mind. All he could count on was Tsunade. Tsunade, who had never seen Sarutobi Hiruzen in such a posture, finally relented. "Old man, what exactly do you want from me?" "I want you to be Hokage." "No need to talk." Tsunade immediately turned her face away. "Old man, there's no need to talk about things like Hokage. I don't want to have so many tedious things on my shoulders." Soon, she seemed to realize something and narrowed her eyes slightly. "You asked me to return to the village because you didn't want Minato's brother to become Hokage." Sarutobi Hiruzen looked slightly embarrassed. "I can't hide it from you." Tsunade took a breath and looked at him deeply. "In the future, I will go talk to him. As for the Hokage matter, there is no need to think about it for the time being. Is that so?" Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. Although Tsunade didn't immediately agree to become Hokage, it would be a big help if she could go to Namikaze Mirai. Tsunade decided to visit the Uchiha clan. According to the information obtained from Sarutobi Hiruzen, Namikaze Mirai now lives in the Uchiha clan. Even his nephew Naruto, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki, Tsunade-sama. This is not good. Shizune, who was holding the pig, was a little nervous. The Uchiha tribe was in front of her. "I heard that Uchiha are a group of very difficult people to get along with. Will there be any surprises if they enter so boldly?" "Shizune, if you are worried, you can wait for me outside." "No, I want to go with you." Shizune's head immediately shook like a rattle. Wherever Tsunade goes, she goes. The Uchiha who was guarding the entrance to the Uchiha clan only blinked, doubting his own eyes. You are." Tsunade looked at him calmly. "Please, tell Namikaze Mirai that Tsunade is coming to see him." Chapter 63 Transforming the Ninja World. Tsunade is coming to visit the Uchiha clan. After receiving the news from his subordinates, Uchiha Fugaku's face froze, and he looked slightly unnatural. "Tsunade, you just returned to the village, right? Just come to visit the Uchiha clan?" Uchiha Fugaku suddenly felt a headache. Maybe it was Sarutobi Hiruzen's instigation. The scheming Sandaime didn't know what he was planning. The future must be notified as soon as possible. As soon as he walked out of the door, he saw Namikaze Mirai walking towards here. Said immediately, "In the future, Tsunade is coming." "I know." Namikaze Mirai nodded. Tsunade's biomagnetic field was very special. From a distance, he could sense the terrifying magnetic field that was so strong that it was inhuman. There is only one ninja in Konoha who possesses this level of biomagnetic field. Tsunade. Not long after, Tsunade came to a room under the guidance of the Uchiha people. Uchiha Fugaku and Namikaze Mirai were already waiting for her. After seeing the two of them, Tsunade didn't care and sat on the vacant seat generously. "It seems you knew I was coming for a long time." Seeing the tea prepared on the table, Tsunade, who was thirsty, picked up a cup and took a sip with disgust on her face. "It tastes really bad." Why don't you prepare some drinks? Uchiha. Fugaku was speechless. Who knows how to prepare wine when receiving guests? Probably only Tsunade would ask such a question. But the other party was the princess of Konoha, and even though Fugaku was dissatisfied, there was still no expression on his face. In the future, you finally return to the village, looking at the young blonde face in front of the low table. Tsunade's expression suddenly became complicated. Minato is Jiraiya's apprentice, and Mirai is Minato's younger brother. With such a relationship, the relationship between Tsunade and Namikaze Mirai is quite familiar. After learning the news about Namikaze Mirai's disappearance, she felt regretful for a while. After all, such a genius suddenly disappeared without a trace. Anyone would feel sad. Until not long ago, she was a little surprised when she heard the news of Namikaze's return from the future. However, I didn't expect that Namikaze Mirai, who had just returned to the village, would make such a big noise. Danzo is dead. The roots are gone too. Namikaze Mirai almost single-handedly defeated Konoha's most elite combat power. Facing Tsunade's complex and regretful expression, Namikaze Mirai's expression was quite calm. After missing for 3 years and returning to the village, seeing my only nephew being treated like that, no one would be able to calm down, right? Naruto. Tsunade remained silent. Minato's bright smile was still replaying in his mind. As the hero of the village, the only son left, it is true that the old man did not do this well, but as a Jinchuriki, Naruto has done his best to receive such treatment. Ridiculous. Namikaze Mirai sneered. There was a hint of sarcasm in his tone. Ah. You trying to say, let me thank Sarutobi Hiruzen for taking care of Naruto? Or 3-year-old child lives alone and can only eat instant noodles and drink expired milk. When he walks on the street, he is called a demon fox. He is thrown away by other children of the same age. Stone. Every time I think about this, my heart hurts. My idiot brother died in an unknown manner, and the only son left behind was bullied by the village. How can I be calm about this kind of thing? There seemed to be fire burning in his blue eyes. The air in this room solidified for a moment. Tsunade was too reprimanded to dare to speak. Fugaku, who was sitting aside, also didn't dare to say a word. He suddenly began to regret why he came to see Tsunade. As long as it comes to Naruto, no matter how gentle Namikaze Miku is 1 second, he will turn into a crazy beast the next second. Fugaku had personally seen Namikaze Mirai going crazy. He broke into the root base alone and killed nearly 70% of the roots. With the protection of Sarutobi Hiruzen, he forcibly killed Danzo. That madness is like the devil coming to the world. Uchiha Fugaku was extremely lucky. Later he learned that Danzo had approached Shisu and given the task of bringing Naruto. But Shisu refused. Fortunately, Shisu refused. Otherwise, after Danzo's death, the remedy he would have to do would definitely not be as simple as strengthening the security within the clan. Tsunade, who had been silent for a long time, finally sighed. The old man is indeed a bastard. Even if she tried her best to wash this kind of thing, she really couldn't do it. Fortunately, there was only Namikaze Mirai on the other side. If Jiraiya was here, she would probably be overwhelmed by the guilt. Tsunade-sama, when you come here this time, you shouldn't just talk about these things, right? Namikaze Mirai gets right to the point. To be honest, I did come here with a mission. Tsunade breathed out to calm down. The old man doesn't want you to become Hokage. That's why he sent me here. Ah, Namikaze Mirai sneered. Full of contempt. How could a dying Sarutobi be able to block his way? So, what's your idea, HMM? Tsunade pondered. To be honest, my previous view was the same as the old man's. It is too risky to let a ninja who kills Kagero become Hokage. Previously, now, Tsunade pondered for a moment. I'm taking a wait and see attitude for the time being. Can you tell me what you want to do when you become Hokage? There is no boring reason like my brother is Hokage, so my brother also wants to be Hokage, right? Namikaze Mirai looked at the sky outside the window. Tsunade, don't you think this world has remained the same for too long, solidly unchanged? Tsunade frowned. Namikaze Mirai didn't seem to notice a strangeness and said to himself, ever since I came to this world, I have always felt that the way this world works is ridiculous. The so-called nobles can take away most of the income from labor without the support of force. It is clear that ninjas have abilities far beyond ordinary people, but they do not participate in them at all. Production activities, all of these are very different from my understanding, so, from that moment on, I was determined to change the world. At the beginning, I planned to assist Minato and start the revolution in Konoha until it spreads to the entire ninja world. But I didn't expect that so many things have happened in the past few years since I disappeared. Minato is no longer here, so let me finish the unfinished business. A new Konoha, or even a new ninja world. Tsunade, don't you look forward to it? Tsunade didn't know why, but something suddenly seemed to touch her heart. I would rather hang out in the casino than return to Konoha. Isn't it because of the decay of the village? The big tree named Konoha has begun to rot from the roots. As long as you are in Konoha, you will smell the disgusting smell. Will Namikaze be the one to change everything in the future? At least, he has this ambition. She sighed extremely complicatedly. It seems that the old man made a mistake in asking me to return to the village. Perhaps you are more suitable to be Hokage than me. Chapter 64 Umbrella Company in the Wind. Tsunade left. Went away with mixed emotions walking out of the Uchiha clan. Shizune, who was following her with her piggy in her arms, saw Tsunade's appearance. After hesitating for a moment, he asked, Tsunade-sama, what happened? When Tsunade was talking to Namikaze Mirai Fugaku, she was outside the house and did not hear the conversation between several people. Shizune, I suddenly feel that the old man is wrong. After a long silence, Tsunade just said this sentence. Then he stopped talking. This time she came to the Uchiha clan in person. Her ideas had changed a lot from before. Perhaps Namikaze becoming Hokage in the future would be a good thing for Konoha. Shizune had never seen Tsunade like this before. He opened his mouth and the words reached his throat, but he still didn't say anything. In that room, after Tsunade left, the conversation between Namikaze Mirai and Uchiha Fugaku continued. Fugaku, I plan to start a company called Umbrella Company. Uchiha Fugaku looked shocked. Yes. Namikaze Mirai nodded. As I said to Tsunade just now, the world has remained unchanged for too long. The Umbrella Company may be able to usher in new changes in the world. After thinking for a moment, Uchiha Fugaku frowned. In the future, what will this Umbrella Company do? Umbrella, as the name suggests, is a large company covering several fields such as security, military, and medical care. Security is to provide security services for businessmen and other employees. The responsibilities are similar to those of ninjas, but they are much more extensive. Needless to say, military. As for medical, Namikaze Mirai paused. Ninja is a high-risk profession. The high frequency of fighting makes the injury rate of ninjas remain high. At the same time, a huge medical market was born, with extremely huge profits. Rough medical products such as bingyunwan and bandages alone cannot satisfy such a huge market, and medical ninjas are not something every ninja village can afford. As long as we make breakthroughs in the pharmaceutical industry, there will be a steady stream of profits. A decision decided by the economic background. As a highly educated time traveler, Namikaze Mirai knows this well. Money is always the first factor for development. After traveling through these years, he has gained a relatively comprehensive understanding of the ninja world, which is why he has the confidence to say those words to Tsunade. Accepting the impact of a large piece of information about Namikaze's future. Uchiha Fugaku's expression gradually changed from shock at the beginning to shock. This is an extremely huge blueprint. If the Umbrella Company is successfully established, it will have an unimaginable impact on Konoha. But, won't this be too difficult? Uchiha Fugaku said with a headache. It is precisely because the blueprint is so big that, if you want to realize it, you will face even more difficulties and obstacles. Just listening to Namikaze Mirai's description, Uchiha Fugaku felt that the huge thing was oppressing him and making it difficult to breathe. That's why we need to integrate the power of the entire Konoha. Namikaze Mirai's blue eyes showed a smile. For example, in the medical industry, the Nera clan has a lot of experience in pharmaceuticals, and the clan's territory is the place where many rare medicinal materials grow. If Tsunade is brought in, the creation of the medical department will be completed, as For security and military, it's perfect to leave it to Hinata and Uchiha. It would be a pity for Byakugan to only do reconnaissance. It can be used with long-range weapons to kill many threats in advance. Namikaze Mirai smiled slightly. The location of the umbrella company should be chosen at its original root base. New Konoha leaves have no roots buried deep in the ground. They only have umbrellas to protect the new leaves from wind and rain. Uchiha Fugaku's pupils were trembling slightly. The new leaves have no roots buried deep in the ground. Only umbrellas to protect the new leaves from wind and rain. The words kept echoing in his mind. Maybe that was what Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara had expected when they founded Konoha. However, as the third generation came to power and Danzo became cruel and independent, the tree that held so many hopes eventually rotted away. Namikaze Mirai's protective umbrella allowed him to see a brand new Konoha. If I guess correctly, that wind will come soon. Namikaze Mirai smiled lightly and looked at the sky outside the window. There was a little expectation in his blue eyes. At the same time, Tsunade, who left the Uchiha clan, has returned to the Hokage Tower. Tsunade, how's it going? Seeing Tsunade come in, Sarutobi Hiruzen put down the documents in his hands. His eyes filled with anticipation. But soon, he discovered something was wrong. Tsunade's face darkened. Very ugly. Old man, don't come to me again for this kind of thing. What's wrong? The smile on Sarutobi Hiruzen's face froze, and he had a bad feeling in his heart. Anyway, you don't have to come to me for this kind of thing in the future. After saying these words, Tsunade turned and left, followed by Shizune holding Dodo in her arms. The smile on Sarutobi Hiruzen's face disappeared and returned to his previous gloomy look. What's wrong, Tsunade? He was confused and puzzled. But this is not a good thing. Chapter 65 Tearing up the peace agreement. Union Village decided to go to war. Union Village. The Raikage chamber built in a towering mountain. AI, who was the 4th generation Raikage at the time, looked at the information on Konoha on the Raikage's table and fell into deep thought. Danzo is dead. The 7 or 88 who were also killed at their roots were dead in name only. Now Konoha almost had one arm cut off. As a result, Konoha, which was already at a low point in strength, saw its combat power drop significantly again. AI's heart was ready to stir facing Konoha, which was the weakest. Since the founding of the village, it was difficult for him to contain his inner desires. Kumogakure village has always wanted to replace Konoha and become the leader of the 5 great ninja villages. The 2 villages had long-standing grievances. Not long ago, the envoy he sent to Konoha to sign a peace agreement was all killed by Minato's younger brother. It was undoubtedly a slap in the face, hitting him hard in the face. Afterwards, he strongly demanded that Hiruzen Sarutobi take responsibility for the incident, and even went to the extent of starting a war to put pressure on him. It was originally agreed that the body of the Hyuga clan leader would be used in exchange. In the end, for some unknown reason, Konoha has not sent Hinata Hizu's body until now. Letters urging Konoha almost all fell into the sea. There was strong anger in his heart. It's just that there is a lack of an opportunity to vent. With the strength of Cloud Hidden Village, it will be easy to defeat the current Konoha. Ai's eyes revealed a ferocious smile. Different from the decadence of Konoha, the current strength of Kumogakure village has reached a whole new level. The 2 Jinchuriki in the village, Yukato, the second-tailed Jinchuriki, and his younger brother, the 8-tailed Jinchuriki, are both perfect Jinchuriki. Able to perfectly utilize the power of tailed beasts. On the other hand, in Konoha, the only Kyuubi Jinchuriki is still or 3-year-old child. The information even fell into the hands of the Uchiha clan. Ridiculous. Sarutobi Hiruzen had guarded his Jinchuriki all his life, but in the end, it was in the hands of Uchiha, who was always suppressing and guarding against him. Ridiculous. It made AI despise the current Konoha even more. The only thing that needs to be feared is Namikaze Mirai. Minato's younger brother Blue Flash. During the Third War, the Yellow Flash Minato was on the battlefield in the Kingdom of Thunder, and his younger brother, the Blue Flash, was on the battlefield in the Kingdom of Wind. So AI Welly has never fought against Namikaze Mirai in person. But judging from the intelligence sent back, This is a very terrifying enemy. Definitely not underwater gate. The 4th generation Kazakage Rasa suffered a nervous breakdown after fighting with him, almost going crazy. Danzo was also killed by him. It would be a big trouble if this person joins the war, but AI was not worried. The 2 perfect Jinchuriki and his own presence were enough to reverse any accident. In this battle, I have the advantage. After analyzing the situation in depth, AI took a long breath. The ninja world has been peaceful for too long. It's time to add some spice. He looked at the peace agreement previously signed with Konoha on the Raikage's table, sneered, picked it up, and tore it in half from the middle. It didn't take long for the news of Kumogakure's declaration of war to reach Konoha village. Hokage building. The air in the conference room was thick, as if it had frozen, making it difficult for everyone to breathe. The higher level officials of Konoha at both ends of the conference table all looked grave and said nothing. Everyone, Union village has declared war. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was sitting at the top of the Hokage's table, sighed with mixed emotions. The senior executives at the conference table had different eyes. Some were unwilling, some were angry, some were sighing. For Kumogakure to declare war at this time, it must have seen through Konoha's current predicament. Shikaku Nara, the leader of the Nara clan, said in a deep voice. As the leader of the Nara clan and a figure like Konoha's military advisor, facing this situation, it was difficult to find a countermeasure for a while. Konoha's strength was already sluggish, and Danzo was killed not long ago, so the roots existed in name only. Konoha, who had cut off one of his arms, found it difficult to fight against Kumogakure. If a war breaks out, I'm afraid that we will immediately fall into a passive situation. If you ask me, all of this is Namikaze's fault in the future. If he hadn't killed all the Kumogakure village envoys before and killed Danzo a few days ago, Kumogakure village wouldn't have started a war. The speaker was a jounin from the Sarutobi clan. There was reluctance and resentment in his tone. It seemed like he had some deep hatred for Namikaze Mirai. Indeed, Konoha's current situation is inseparable from Namikaze's future. The person who responded was another jounin, also from the Sarutobi clan. Under the leadership of these ninjas from the Sarutobi clan, many harsh voices towards Namikaze Mirai soon sounded in the conference room. The tone behind the words seemed as if Namikaze Mirai was the culprit of all this. Just when they were letting off steam. Boom, the door to the conference room was blasted open. Debris flew and dust swirled. The conference room was quiet for a moment, and the senior people at the conference table subconsciously looked at the door that was blasted open. The swelling dust gradually subsided. When they saw that man's appearance, the Sarutobi clansman who had been scolding Namikaze Mirai just now turned pale with fear and his lips trembled. Namikaze Mirai, the person who opened the conference room door, was none other than Namikaze Mirai. Thinking of Namikaze's illustrious reputation in the future, at this moment, he was so frightened that he couldn't say a word. Future, why are you here, Sarutobi? Hiruzen had a bad feeling in his heart. With such a strong debut, what are Namikaze's plans for the future? Without answering him directly, Namikaze Mirai's eyes calmly swept across the conference table. I heard that Union village declared war. The senior officials at the conference table looked at each other. Although he didn't say anything, his expression confirmed everything. Oh, is this small Union village worthy of your pessimism? There was a little contempt in Namikaze Mirai's eyes, and he glanced at the senior officials around the conference table. The ninja who was hit by him. All of them lowered their heads in shame. In Konoha, Namikaze Mirai is probably the only one who dares to look down on Kumogakure like this. I will take action in this battle. After saying this, Namikaze Mirai turned and left. Somehow, after hearing his words, many senior officials who were originally pessimistic suddenly relaxed. It seems that Union village is not so scary anymore. Realizing this strange emotion, they became even more ashamed, almost forgot. At this moment, the leaving Namikaze Mirai suddenly stopped. These sudden words shocked everyone. Everyone who had just relaxed held their breath again. Uchiha, after Finishing speaking, Namikaze Mirai did not stop this time, and disappeared from everyone's sight. Sarutobi Hiruzen clenched his fingers, and looked at his back unwillingly. Namikaze will become stronger in the future. The more it proves his incompetence. In the past, even in times of war, he would suppress the Uchiha clan by suppressing their military exploits, but now, things have changed. The emergence of Namikaze in the future makes the situation no longer controllable. After this battle, to what height will the reputation of Namikaze Mirai and Uchiha rise in the village? Sarutobi Hiruzen realized it later, and cold sweat broke out on his back. He discovered that for Namikaze Mirai, the war in Kumogakure village was actually a huge opportunity for him to plunder his reputation. Chapter 66 For the glory of Uchiha. Tata is on. Tata is on! Exclamation mark. After leaving the Hokage building, Namikaze Mirai immediately returned to the Uchiha clan and began mobilization work. We really going to go to war in the future, Uchiha? Fugaku looked solemn. U9 village declared war with such great fanfare. The number of ninjas invested in this battle was definitely not low. The current Konoha, whose strength is already sluggish, rushes into a fight, and the result is difficult to predict. He was worried that this battle would damage Uchiha's vitality. Fugaku, I understand your concerns, Namikaze. Mirai looked at him with a smile, but it's also an opportunity, isn't it? What's more, it's not you and me who want to join the war, not you and me. There was a trace of confusion in Fugaku's eyes. What the future says is not you me. What does it mean? Come over here and we'll find out. Namikaze Mirai led him in one direction. Uchiha Fugaku's confusion deepened. This direction should be the location of the Uchiha training ground, right? What is the purpose of bringing him here in the future? Stepping into the training ground, Uchiha Fugaku looked at the neatly arranged Uchiha in the playground, and was suddenly shocked. The future, this shock, appeared in his eyes when did such a large number of Uchiha people gather here. He saw some familiar faces among them. Uchiha Yashiro, Uchiha Inari, Uchiha Iron Fire, Uchiha Setsuna. He saw an unexpected person. Itachi, why are you here? Fugaku said in shock. Father, I have decided to accompany the teacher to the front line, but this, father, you don't need to persuade me anymore. I have already made my decision. Itachi's eyes were determined. Sighing, Uchiha Fugaku was no longer trying to comfort him. He knew that Itachi's character would never change once a decision was made. Setsuna Uchiha's eagle-like eyes were smiling. Fugaku, haven't you noticed the fire in the eyes of these tribesmen? Fugaku paused and glanced at the Uchiha people behind Itachi. A pair of eyes seemed to contain something like fire, burning brightly. Fugaku, as the clan leader, you have always suppressed the pride of the Uchiha clan. Namikaze Mirai's calm voice came from behind, but you have ignored that as an Uchiha. The pride ingrained in the blood cannot be trampled on. Sarutobi Hiruzen's suppression, the high-level exclusion, the villagers' discrimination, all of this is simmering Uchiha's anger. Namikaze Mirai took a deep breath. Uchiha, let's fight. Let's restore the glory of Uchiha. The eyes of the Uchiha tribesmen on the training ground were red and their breathing was heavy. The deafening roar echoed throughout the entire training ground. For the glory of Uchiha. Tata opens. Tata opens. Tata is on. Tata is on. This roar made Uchiha Fugaku's bloodline expand, and his breathing suddenly became rapid. Only now did he understand the meaning of Namikaze Mirai's previous words as the clan leader. He actually didn't understand his clan members better than Namikaze Mirai. This battle is an opportunity for the Uchiha clan to regain their glory. Uchiha Fugaku, who was in a state of sigh, met Namikaze Mirai's serious eyes. Fugaku, I need you to do me a favor. Uchiha Fugaku's eyes were solemn. You said the future. This was the first time he saw Namikaze Mirai with such an expression. He knew that if it was not a very important matter, Namikaze Mirai would never ask him to do it. There is a list here. I need you to find every name on the list. After receiving the list handed over by Namikaze Mirai and looking at the names on the list, Uchiha Fugaku's pupils were trembling slightly and his voice was shocking. In the future, these are all they were all my and Minato's former subordinates. A proud smile appeared in Namikaze Mirai's blue eyes. These people have accompanied Minato and I in our 3 battles. Now, it's time to find them back. Uchiha. Fugaku looked at the names on the list. Among them were many famous ninjas. Since Namikaze Mirai disappeared and Minato died, many of these ninjas have gradually disappeared. Now, will Namikaze Mirai finally find them? This thin piece of paper suddenly became extremely heavy in Uchiha Fugaku's hands. Don't worry, in the future, I will get them back one by one. Uchiha. Fugaku solemnly accepted the piece of paper at the gate of Konoha. Shiranogenma was holding 1,000 books in his mouth, leaning against the wall with his hands behind his head. Boring, really boring, repeating the same thing day after day. Looking at the unchanging scenery outside the Konoha wall, Shiranogenma felt that his bones were about to loosen, and his whole person seemed to be rotting from the depths of his soul. Shiranogenma once had a glorious time. Somehow, things from the past still can't help but come out. Shiranogenjian was filled with emotion. Back then, as the 4th generation's bodyguard, what kind of glory was he? Even his family is proud of him. Thanks to the Yondame's protection, the Shiranu clan might rise from a small clan to become a major clan in Konoha. But, who could have imagined that something like that would happen? Shiranu Genma's eyes dimmed. After the Kyuubi rebellion, the 4th generation and his wife died, and his younger brother also disappeared. The enviable Namikaze brothers disappeared almost simultaneously. The 3rd generation came back to power, and these followers who were loyal to Minato and the future were no longer used, and were gradually marginalized. Politics is so cruel. Shiranogenma suddenly recalled the days when he was the Yondaime guard, and couldn't help but feel sentimental. I wonder what happened to Bingzulei and them. Suddenly, Shiranogenma noticed someone approaching, and immediately made a defensive posture, staring at the approaching person. The fan clan pattern is very conspicuous. Uchiha. Shiranogenma, do you want to continue to rot, or go crazy? What's the meaning? Shiranogenma held his breath. That Lord needs you. The pupil suddenly shrank. Could it be Diabasi, who had a goatee and a beard, was lying on the bed with a sad face? He had not received any good tasks in the past half month. If this continues, the next cost will be a big problem. When he was bored, there was a knock on the door. Surprised, Diabasi opened the door. It was an unfamiliar Uchiha face. Divahi, that Lord needs you. Almost at the same time, the same scene happened everywhere in Konoha. Namikaze Mirai and Minato's old team finally received the call after 3 years. It's not the same. That adult is back. Inuzuka. Koto, I will need you in the future. Nabuko. Aburame, the future master is calling. Chapter 67. Welcome back, my subordinates. Uchiha Clanland. A wide square. The square was already crowded with ninjas. The crowd looked at each other, and there was a bustling sound of surprise. Shiranogenma, you are actually here too. It's not the same. You're here too. Hahaha. The 3 of us are finally together again. The 3 of them are the escort team of Namikaze Minato. Together, the 3 of them can use the Flying Thunder God formation to teleport through time and space. As the group of ninjas talk to each other, emotions of shock mixed with surprise spread through them. The ninjas around him were all their former colleagues or comrades from the 3 wars. After not seeing each other for a long time, they were filled with surprise when they reunited. It seems that the adult has gathered us all. Everyone's hearts were beating loudly. Although he didn't say his name directly, the ninjas around him knew it very well. Namikaze Mirai, the younger brother of the 4th generation. Calling them. After 3 years, that adult returned to Konoha and finally came to look for them. Future Sama is here. I don't know who suddenly made an arch, and the crowd suddenly became quiet. Everyone's eyes, either in anticipation or admiration, were all focused on the approaching figure. Familiar blonde hair reflected light in the sun. A smile appeared in Namikaze Mirai's blue eyes, scanning the ninja standing here. Everyone, I kept you waiting for a long time. This simple sentence made the ninja standing there feel sore in his nose and his eyes became wet. They had been waiting for this sentence for 3 years. Future Sama, you are finally back. Yeah, I didn't expect it has been so long. Suddenly, the crowd became restless, excitement mixed with complex emotions, and dispersed from the crowd. Once upon a time, they also followed Namikaze Mirai, and had a glorious past. Namikaze Mirai glanced at the ninjas in front of him one by one. These familiar faces were now covered with vicissitudes of life. Everyone, I know that during the years when I was missing, most of you were ostracized, marginalized, and lost your previous positions. But now, I'm back. Join me and take back everything you lost. The old man standing in front of him was breathing rapidly. His blood was trembling, and a fire seemed to be ignited in his heart. Take it all back. Take it all back. The heroic voice echoed in the sky. Hokage building. Sarutobi Hiruzen was close to the window, looking at the ninja troops setting off outside the window. The reflection of the glass reflected his gloomy face. The lineup of that army was very luxurious, with no less than 100 jounin alone. Such a force rushing to the battlefield will inevitably have a huge impact on the direction of this war. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't be happy, no matter what. Heart heavy. Because those are Namikaze Mirai's troops, from the formation, to the selection, and now to the deployment. This force has not been approved by him, the Hokage, from the beginning to the end. And most of them are made up of Uchiha tribesmen, and they are all extreme Uchiha tribesmen. On weekdays, these Uchiha are the focus of Anbu's attention. These Uchiha lunatics can cause huge harm if they are not careful. Now, Namikaze Mirai organized them into a unit and sent them to the battlefield. After this battle, Uchiha's reputation in the village will probably improve significantly. Sarutobi Hiruzen was unwilling, but he had no choice. At other times, he was able to use balanced means to suppress Uchiha's military exploits and assign them to unimportant tasks such as escort, defense, and backup. But it's different now. Union Village's army pressed on the territory. The front line was retreating steadily. If the same method is used to suppress Uchiha again, I'm afraid the other ninjas will have objections before Uchiha can resist. He must use this power, no matter how reluctant he is. Hiruzen. Namikaze Mirai has reorganized his old troops. The worried voice of Koharu, who was sleeping behind him, suddenly made Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression freeze. When did this happen? It was completed not long ago. The troops that just set off should be mixed with his old troops. Although Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression could not be seen from this angle, Koharu could infer his mood at this time from his hunched back. I want to express comfort, but I don't know how to say it. She took a breath and told another piece of news that shocked Sarutobi Hiruzen. The Jinchuriki was also taken away by him. What? Even though Sarutobi Hiruzen had been shocked before, he was still shocked by these words. How old is the Jinchuriki? Namikaze Mirai actually brought him to the battlefield. Does he have the confidence to protect Naruto from all the troops? Sarutobi Hiruzen clenched his fingers unwillingly. Originally, he had been prepared to immediately start retaking the Ninetales Jinchuriki when Namikaze and most of the Uchiha forces left Konoha in the future. As the ultimate weapon of Konoha, the Ninetales Jinchuriki must not, and will never be allowed to fall into the hands of Uchiha. This is the best opportunity. The Anbu had already assembled. Just wait for his order. However, he never thought that Namikaze Mirai would even bring the Jinchuriki to the battlefield. Hiruzen, I'm afraid he guessed what we were thinking. That's why he took Naruto away. When he went to bed, Zayada-chan had complicated eyes. There is only this possibility. Namikaze Mirai knows their plan, and he is absolutely confident in himself. Even if the Hidden Cloud Village uses all its strength, it is impossible to take Naruto away from him. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a few steps back and sat down on the chair. His eyes were as hen. Uchiha Clanland. 3-year-old Sasuke discovered a strange phenomenon. The clanland suddenly became much quieter, and Naruto, who often played with him, disappeared. Faced with all these strange phenomena, Sasuke instinctively wanted to find Itachi. Nissan. He pushed open Itachi's room, but did not see a figure. Strange. Where did Nissan go? Sasuke looked around and only found an envelope on the table. He was very familiar with the handwriting on the title page. To my dear brother, it's a letter Nissan left for me. Sasuke curiously opened it and looked at the contents inside. My dear brother, when you see this letter, your brother should have left. Sasuke, don't feel sad for your brother's sudden departure. Your brother has things he has to do. My brother has always been confused and in pain for the village and the family until that day he met the future master. He is like a ray of light in my dark world, guiding me in the direction of progress. At that time, my brother knew what his path was. Sasuke, Take care of yourself. My brother is going to the front line. If everything goes well, when my brother comes back, Konoha will no longer be the same Konoha as before. My brother who loves you the most. Chapter 68. Kill kill kill. Uchiha kills through the battlefield. The land of grass, because of its unique geographical location, it is often regarded as a buffer zone between major countries. This time the battle between Konoha and Cloud Hidden Village follows the old rules, and the battle line is still drawn from the territory of the land of grass. Konoha camp point in the main camp tent. Yamazaki Heiichi, as the commander, stared at the sand table in front of him with a solemn expression. The faces of the other senior executives at the conference table were equally ugly. More ninjas have been put into Kumogakure than we expected. A complex voice came from Shanzanhei's mouth. In the past few days, their troops had fought several battles with U9 Village, but the results were not ideal. The number of ninjas invested in Cloud Hidden Village exceeded Konoha's expectations by thousands. The number of Jonin was also much higher than Th's. After years of cultivation and recuperation in U9 Village, its combat power has grown significantly compared to the 3 wars. Looking back at Konoha, after the Night of the Nine Tails, the village's high-end combat power was almost cut off, and a large number of Jounin were also lost. One is ebbing, and the other is ebbing, and this disparity in strength caused Konoha to suffer defeats one after another. It fell into a passive situation at the beginning point. If this situation continues, I'm afraid that defeat will happen sooner or later. Everyone in the camp looked a little heavy. It was like an invisible pressure hung in the air, making it difficult for them to breathe. In such a heavy atmosphere, the door of the camp was pushed open in a panic. Lord Heiai, the Kumo ninja troops have launched an attack. What? Yamazaki Heiichi and a large number of high-level officials in the camp all took a breath and stared at the reported scout in great shock. Ah, you sure you're not mistaken? How long has it been since the last battle? Absolutely. The scout swallowed. The number of ninjas dispatched by U9 Village this time is more than the last time. A solemn atmosphere spread from the camp. Yamanaka Keiichi secretly sighed in his heart. It was probably because of Konoha's previous defeats that Kumogakure found confidence and began to launch a large-scale attack. At this point, Yamanaka Heiichi knew that worrying could not solve any problems. He shouted in a deep voice, "Fight, plains of grass country." On the endless green grassland, traces of ninjutsu attacks can be seen everywhere, and the corpses and kunai of ninjas lie messily on the battlefield. The Konoha ninjas wearing dark green vests stared at the other side of the grassland, and the sweat on their foreheads revealed their nervousness at the moment. Yamazaki hasted on the raised hill at the front, looking at the battlefield in the distance from a high place. Suddenly, he seemed to find something. Hold your breath. Coming soon. Suddenly, there was a slight vibration on the ground of the grassland. In the nervous expression of the Konoha ninja, a black line appeared on the other side of the grassland. In a very short period of time, the black line gradually grew larger and turned into a black mass of Cloud Ninja troops, roaring and charging towards them. Kill, come on, Konoha. Ninjas wearing dark green vests also rushed forward with shouts and roars. Looking down from a high altitude, it's like 2 pieces of paint of different colors colliding with each other and violently mixing together. The sound of swords clashing, the sound of ninjutsu attacks, and the shouts of ninjas are like a grand fireworks blooming on the battlefield. Yamanaka Heiichi's face was solemn. The number of ninjas in U9 villages at least 30% more than them. The initial charge has not shown any signs of decline. Now that they have entered a fierce battle, Konoha's disadvantages exposed in an instant. The disparity in numbers made the Konoha ninjas in the battle constrained and had to spare some energy to deal with the enemy's sneak attack. On the other hand, Yunren had no such concerns at all. The momentum is growing steadily, and the more we fight, the braver we become. Heiai, be ready to retreat. After the gigantic Akimichi Chosa sent several Kumo ninjas flying, he took a few steps back and looked at Yamanaka Heiichi behind him. Hold on, Shanzan. Heiai clenched his fingers, feeling unwilling to do so. This battle had only begun not long ago, so retreating so quickly would only cause Konoha's already low morale to drop again. If the Kumo ninja troops attack again later, it will be even more difficult to fight them. Hey, it's time to make a decision as soon as possible. The huge fist swept across and knocked away the rushing Kumo ninja in front of him. Akimichi Dingza once again reminded him seriously. In the short time they had been talking, the situation of Konoha's troops had become more passive, and there were faint signs of defeat. Hateful, Shanzhan. Heiai gritted his teeth slightly. He knew that, if he continued to delay, the situation would only get worse. Right now, the only option is to retreat. Just when he was about to give the order, Mr. Heiai, there are troops coming from the flank to support us. The scout's voice of surprise reached his ears. Yamanaka Heiai looked startled and immediately turned his head to look, only to see that the other side of the Kumo ninja troops seemed to be in a commotion, and a large number of Kumo ninjas were rushing towards that direction. He closed his eyes and turned on his senses perception. A group of strange ninjas suddenly appeared on the right wing of Konoha's troops. The attack was extremely fierce, and the Kumo ninjas who were killed were retreating steadily. The village's support. Why are you so fierce, Yamanaka? Heiichi was startled and put his senses on that troop. His pupils suddenly shrank. This is battlefield. Flank, kill. 4. The glory of Uchiha. 4. The glory of Uchiha. The Uchiha clan members almost went crazy. Their scarlet Sharingan eyes opened angrily, and they roared towards the Cloud Ninja troops' physical skills. Illusion. Fire escape. Countless ferocious attacks were blasted at Cloud Ninja, using almost all attack methods, except biting with teeth. The Kumo ninja was frightened by this scene. Before the Kumo ninja could even attack, he was stunned by the illusion of the Sharingan, and was stabbed in the throat by the Uchiha who rushed after him. The red-eyed Uchiha tribesmen even set their sights on their tribe's enemies, and began to fight for their tribe's enemies. Don't take my head, this head is mine. The surrounding ninjas looked at this scene. A sense of humiliation mixed with fear spread out from their hearts. What do these damn Uchihas think they are? Almost at the same time, another force on the left side of the Uchiha clan was also frantically killing the Kumo ninja. We can't lose to the Uchiha next door. Charge. The future adults are watching us. We must not let the future adults down. Namikaze Mirai's former subordinate, with a deafening roar, madly rushed towards the Kumo ninja on the opposite side. Two different troops seemed to be competing with each other, and the Kumo ninja troops were retreating steadily. The Konoha ninjas who were in a state of defeat not long ago looked at this scene with their mouths open in a daze, extremely shocked. How cruel. The Kumo ninja troops that overwhelmed them were defeated step by step under the attack of the Uchiha tribe and another army, leaving them unable to fight back. At this moment, they finally experienced the feeling of divine weapons descending from the sky, several hundred meters away from the battlefield. On the high bulging hillside, Namikaze Mirai was taking Naruto beside him, overlooking the battlefield from a high place. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Naruto. Do you want to see fireworks? From this position, you can overlook the entire battlefield. Naruto, holding Namikaze Mirai's finger, looked at this scene with confusion, and looked up and asked, "Uncle, why are they fighting?" Namikaze Mirai rubbed Naruto's blonde hair and smiled gently, "Because they are all chess pieces of the superiors." Chess pieces. There is too much killing and fighting in this world. The superiors will bring endless disputes in a moment. So uncle, want to change this world. Namikaze Mirai's voice was a little emotional. Uchiha Itachi, standing behind them, listened thoughtfully. During the Third World War, he was only 4 years old. Under the leadership of his father Fugaku, he witnessed a war like Namikaze Mirai and Naruto in front of him. Itachi remembered the bloody scenes and his father's teachings compared with Namikaze Mirai. His father's words were more cruel and less philosophical. Namikaze Mirai was too gentle. He covered up the bloody scene for Naruto. So gentle that Naruto beside him didn't realize that this was a cruel war. Naruto, do you want to see fireworks? Namikaze Mirai smiled and looked at Naruto beside him. Fireworks. Naruto tilted his head. I want to see, but uncle, there are no fireworks here, right? The Endless grassland, except for a group of people fighting below. There is no place to set off fireworks. Naruto was confused. He didn't know how his uncle was going to set off fireworks. Watch it, Naruto. In Naruto's expectant eyes, Namikaze Mirai smiled and stretched out a finger, gently tapping the battlefield where the fighting was going on. The two sides in the war, whether it was the Cloud Ninja or the Konoha side, suddenly found out in shock. All the metal objects such as Kunai Shuriken on their bodies floated up strangely. In an instant, a magical scene happened on this battlefield. One Kunai Shuriken after another, one ninja sword after another, gathered in the air to form a huge metal sphere. As metal products were continuously injected, the volume of the metal sphere continued to grow. The occurrence of this strange scene caused many ninjas on the battlefield to stop and look up at the giant metal sphere in the sky in shock. On the side of the Cloud Ninja, there was a ninja who had experienced the 3 wars, and he seemed to remember something. He was suddenly shocked, a heart-wrenching reminder. Run on the hillside. Namikaze Mirai smiled gently. Naruto, watch out, the fireworks are going to explode. He tapped his finger lightly. Boom. The giant iron ball suspended above the battlefield exploded with a bang. In the flames, countless metal products dragged narrow flame tails, falling like meteors, and fell into the Cloud Ninja troops' screams, wails. It echoed on the battlefield in an instant. Countless Cloud Ninjas were pierced through the body by metal. The hot metal wrapped in flames would burn out creepy holes the moment it touched the body. The Cloud Ninjas who did not die immediately wailed and rolled, and the emotion of fear enveloped the Cloud Ninja troops. It can be seen with the naked eye that the Cloud Ninja troops are much sparser. This firework directly blew up 1/3 of the combat power of the Cloud Ninja army. Naruto, how is the uncle's firework? Namikaze Mirai rubbed Naruto's hair, smiling. So cool. Naruto was so happy that he almost jumped up. In this position specially chosen by Namikaze Mirai, Naruto could not see the bloody scene on the battlefield. In his perspective, he only saw huge metal fireworks blooming from the sky and turning into countless meteors falling. Behind him, Itachi looked at Namikaze Mirai's plain back and swallowed his saliva silently. Strong. Too strong. Is this the strength of the teacher? While talking and laughing, he destroyed 30% of the combat power of the Cloud Ninja. Like a god. Behind the Cloud Ninja army, Tute, who was the commander, looked at the scene on the battlefield, and a few bloodshot eyes burst out. He stared at the hillside, staring at the figure with golden hair. Hami K's Wedi lay, biting his teeth, almost word by word. He squeezed out this name from his teeth. He knew that he had lost this battle. If the battle continues, the damage will only be greater. Retreat. Retreat. The roar of the earth platform resounded throughout the battlefield under the influence of chakra. Hearing the order issued by the commander, the frightened Cloud Ninjas retreated in a panic like a tide. We won. We won. The Konoha side looked at this scene and cheered deafeningly. Master Heiai, should we pursue? The Konoha ninja looked at Yamanaka Heiai. After thinking about it, Yamanaka Heiai shook his head. Don't pursue the desperate enemy. Preserving strength is the most important thing. Besides, we should go to welcome the most distinguished guests. The morale of the Konoha side was high and cheered. The resentment accumulated from the previous setbacks was finally vented. This group of Konoha ninjas have never been so proud as they are now. It's so satisfying. It's so satisfying. It's never been so satisfying. Looking at the Uchiha clan members who came to support, his eyes were full of kindness. Although these Uchiha are arrogant on weekdays, they are still very brave in battle. Yamanaka Heiai, a ninja, remained silent and looked in one direction. The Konoha troops, who were still cheering and celebrating in the last second, suddenly became quiet collectively. Everyone's eyes focused on the same location at the same time. The golden hair shone dazzlingly under the refraction of the sun. Namikaze Mirai held Naruto's hand and walked towards the center of the crowd step by step. In the future, I will feel relieved when you come. Yamanaka Heiai spoke in a complicated manner. During the 3 battles, he and Minato were good friends who had gone through several battles, and he had a pretty good relationship with Namikaze Mirai. Now that Namikaze Mirai has come to support him, The burden on him can finally be relieved. Union Village. The 4th generation Raikage AI was waiting in the Raikage room for battlefield information to be sent back. He was in a rather relaxed mood. In this battle, Union Village has the advantage. After the Ninetales rebellion, Konoha's strength was already in a slump, and its roots were destroyed by Namikaze Mirai not long ago. The current Konoha cannot resist the torrent of steel from Kumogakure Village. The intelligence sent back several times also confirmed this. Several battles ended in a great victory for Union Village. At this rate, Konoha's armistice agreement may be received sooner than expected. Lord Raikage, this is the latest information on the battlefield. The scout handed him a scroll. It finally here. AI opened it expectantly. The smile on his face froze instantly. Lost. He held his breath and scanned the content on the scroll carefully. The more he read, the more cold sweat formed on his forehead. Has Namikaze participated in the war in the future? And the Uchiha clan? Damn. What do they want to do? A thick sense of suffocation enveloped AI. He was immediately shocked and said, "Go and invite Yukito." Chapter 70. Get ready. Want to lick Namikaze Mirai well? Celebrate. The Konoha camp is celebrating. The depression of the previous defeats was gone, and the entire Konoha camp was filled with a cheerful atmosphere. The ninjas talked happily, and their hearty laughter echoed in the camp. It's so exciting. I've never seen Kumo Ninja escape so fast in my life. Yes. This time I finally let out a bad breath. Master. Future support was so timely. Ha 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 ha. So happy. Different. From the cheerful atmosphere of the ninjas in the camp, the main camp tent was surprisingly quiet at the moment. The air seemed to be frozen. The senior ninjas sitting around the conference table looked at each other, but no one spoke first. Just because Namikaze Mirai was sitting opposite, scanning them with a faint smile. These ninjas feel great pressure. A ninja looked at Naruto next to Namikaze Mirai with strange eyes. 3-year-old Naruto, who was not even as tall as the conference table, was trying to stretch his head and looked at them curiously. The Jinchuriki is just over 3 years old, right? To be able to participate in this highest level wartime meeting. This scene made many senior executives feel absurd. But no one dared to raise objections, just because he is Namikaze Mirai's nephew. Uncle, why don't these uncles speak? After looking around, Naruto was a little confused and tilted his head to look at Namikaze Mirai beside him. Because uncle is here, they dare not speak. Namikaze Mirai smiled and stroked Naruto's blonde hair. Hearing these words, the surrounding executives were so embarrassed that they almost kicked out of the 3 rooms and 1 living room with their toes. I secretly cursed this kid for not being able to see it all. One sentence set them all on fire. However, no one dared to say it directly. Many of them could see Namikaze Mirai's doting on Naruto. Danzo, the second most powerful man in Konoha, was responsible for kidnapping Naruto. He was killed by Namikaze Mirai through his roots, and even the scum was left behind. If they say anything to make Namikaze Mirai unhappy. The trouble is big. Future, thank you very much this time. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't know what we would do now. Seeing that the atmosphere in the camp was getting awkward, Commander-in-Chief Yamanaka Heiichi, who was sitting at the top, spoke first, using words to divert everyone's emotions. After he finished speaking, the surrounding senior officials immediately reacted and slapped rainbow farts one after another. Future-sama, thank you so much this time. Yes. If it hadn't been for Future-sama this time, we might have lost. When the group of Cloud Ninjas saw Future-sama coming, they were so frightened that they all ran away. Naruto looked at the suddenly lively crowd and smiled from ear to ear. Uncle, it's so strange that they talk so much now. This group of senior executives was even more embarrassed. They looked at each other, but no one dared to speak. In the future, do you have any plans for this battle? Yamanaka Heiichi took over the topic and looked tentatively at Namikaze Mirai. Hearing this, everyone at the conference table also calmed down, with a hint of nervousness in their eyes, and they also looked at Namikaze Mirai. Everyone knows that Namikaze's future will determine the direction of this war. Namikaze Mirai smiled calmly. Since Union Village has the courage to come here, there is no need to go back. I were shocked. The eyes of the senior executives at the conference table were shocked. How could Namikaze be so confident in the future? You must know that their opponent is Unine Village, one of the 5 great ninja villages, and what Yamanaka Heiichi said next made their hearts shocked even more intensely. Okay. Since you are so confident in the future, the position of Commander-in-Chief will be handed over to you, Yamanaka. Hei's eyes looked at Namikaze Mirai solemnly and sincerely. This many high-level officials looked at each other. The position of Commander-in-Chief was chosen by the Sandaime himself, and yet it was transferred so easily. Even if you really want to transfer it, you should ask the Hokage first, and get the answer from the Hokage, before proceeding with the transfer. Someone is ready to rebut. But seeing the intense seriousness in Shanzang Hei's eyes, these people could only give up and swallow their prepared words into their throats. Namikaze Mirai smiled lightly and accepted Yamanaka Heiichi's proposal without refusing. Then, this war will be directed by me. He glanced at the people at the conference table. The fact that Namikaze succeeded Yamanaka Heiichi as the commander-in-chief in the future quickly spread in the Konoha camp after this meeting. When Konoha ninjas pass by Uchiha's camp, they always cover their ears in surprise. Laughing wildly. Countless laughs. I saw a bunch of Uchiha people covering their faces with one hand, raising their heads and laughing maniacally. Ha ha ha. The future master is the commander-in-chief, as expected of the future adults. Ha ha ha. Ah. These Uchihas crazy. The passing Konoha ninjas left in a hurry, and the Uchiha's laughter behind them seemed like tens of thousands of cockroaches chasing them. Not far from the Uchiha camp, in another camp, Shiranojinma and others looked at this scene with helpless smiles. Can these Uchiha get better? Aren't you tired of laughing all the time? Ever since Namikaze Mirai took over the commander-in-chief position, these Uchihas have never stopped laughing. You can hear it from time to time in the middle of the night. A burst of laughter emerging from the Uchiha tent, causing all the surrounding tents to turn on their lights. Of course they are happy. When you become Hokage in the future, they will become the core leaders of the village, holding the black ninja sword. Hinaza Shidodo looked at the Uchiha camp with a meaningful look. His expression froze slightly, and Shiranojinma frowned. Ryutong, what are you talking about? I said, Zuanjian, haven't you understood yet? Ningzu Lei rolled her eyes at him. Since future Sama brought Uchiha to the battlefield, he naturally wanted to train them into direct lineage. Haven't you seen that? Since Uchiha came to support, many ninjas have much better impression of them. Shirano Jinma narrowed his eyes slightly. And the similarities woke him up. Namikaze will not do anything meaningless in the future. Such a big fanfare for Uchiha to come to support, I'm afraid, is also to let Uchiha integrate into Konoha. Speaking of which, I'm afraid future Sama is the most suitable person to tame Uchiha, and the same side. Uchiha is so unruly that not even the Hokage can tolerate him. But there is one characteristic, Mu Kyang, and Namikaze Mirai happens to be ridiculously strong. It was so strong that he was so similar that he even thought he was the reincarnation of Uchiha Madara, reborn through his body. Even his domineering style is similar to that of Uchiha. Zuanjian, we have to make plans. Bingzu seemed to have made up his mind, and his expression calmed down. What do you want to do? Don't you still have a sense of crisis? Once Uchiha takes over, we old members will be alienated, so we must make plans. In line with the plans he had already made, he wanted to take care of Namikaze's future. Better than Uchiha's lick. Chapter 71. What era is it now? ITN-039. S time to play Modern Warfare. Cloud Ninja Camp. Compared to the cheerful atmosphere of Konoha Camp, the air here is much more solemn. Between the tents, medical ninjas in yellow and white uniforms carried stretchers and transported wounded people covered with bandages in the main account. As the commander-in-chief of the Kumo ninja troops, Tode looked haggard. Before Namikaze Mirai arrived, the battle situation in Kumogakure village was quite perfect. The several battles launched all ended in victory. The morale of the troops was high, and they thought they could push the front directly into the Kingdom of Fire in one go. Unexpectedly, Namikaze Mirai appeared. Recalling the huge metal sphere that exploded over the battlefield, Tute still had a hint of shock in his eyes. That move directly caused the Cloud Ninja troops to lose 30% of their combat strength. The densely Scattered hot metal caused many Kumo ninjas to be hit even far away from the explosion, and their bodies were severely burned. The 30% combat strength is just a preliminary estimate. Coupled with the suppression of morale and the many severely burned ninjas, the loss may be more than 30%. Deep worry arose in Tute's heart. Namikaze Mirai had just arrived on the battlefield, and yet they suffered such huge losses. If we continue, how will we fight the next battle? Just when he was worried, the door of the tent was pushed open. Lord Tode, the support sent by Reikage-sama has arrived, the reporting ninja said respectfully. Tute's eyes were filled with joy. While his front foot is still worrying, the back foot support has already arrived. Great. Go and invite them in. Half an hour later, Cloud Ninja Camp conference room. The fiery gazes of Dode and a senior Kumo ninja were all focused on the ninja on the other side of the conference table. Jinchuriki. Still two. The two are composed of Mumen and Kiribi. Faced with such scorching eyes and hospitality, the two Yumu and Kiribi behaved quite calmly. I heard that the front line is dangerous. Big brother asked me to provide support. We came here overnight. Oh yeah. Facing this pre-war meeting with a heavy atmosphere, Kiribi danced with his hands and very thoughtfully performed a rap to cheer up the atmosphere. Just come with you two here. Konoha won't be able to make waves this time no matter what. Tute's eyes were full of smiles. The Jinchuriki is the ultimate weapon of the 5 great ninja villages, able to exert the power of a natural disaster on the battlefield, and for such Jinchuriki, the two sent by Kumogakure village are all perfect Jinchuriki. On the other hand, in Konoha, the only Ninetales Jinchuriki is still a child, and it is impossible for him to fight on the battlefield. Such a gap cannot be smoothed by Namikaze Mirai. A smile finally appeared in Tute's eyes. Very good. This time we must let Konoha taste the taste of failure. Konoha Camp. The Konoha ninjas who were still celebrating their victory in the last battle suddenly heard the information from the scouts. A massive Kumonin attack is discovered on the front lines, even bigger than last time. In the camp, the senior officials who had received the intelligence from the scouts were sitting nervously on the conference table. How long has it been since then? Yuna and Murakami suffered such heavy losses in the battle. Has the counterattack force been gathered so quickly? Could it be a scam? It's hard to say. The senior officials discussed it for a long time, but failed to come up with an effective counterattack strategy. Namikaze Mirai was leaning on the top seat, watching the nervous look of these senior executives. The senior management, who had been arguing for a long time, finally recalled that the wartime commander had been replaced by Namikaze Mirai. He was so shocked that he broke into a cold sweat and asked Namikaze Mirai, "Future Sama, how do you plan to fight back?" Fight. Namikaze Mirai's answer just 2 short words. It was the plane again, almost in the same location, and the war started again in the same place. On the messy battlefield, there are even a lot of metal fragments that exploded recently, which have not been cleaned up, and are scattered on the battlefield. Watching the scouts report back the direction of the Kumo ninja troops' attack, Yamanaka Heiichi looked at Namikaze's future position with a solemn look on his face. Namikaze Mirai's face was quite calm, as if he didn't feel any threat. The hearts of the surrounding Konoha ninjas were clenching, and they were swallowing nervously. Except for the Uchiha. The group of Uchiha tribesmen following Namikaze Mirai all looked excited at this moment. With strong fighting spirit, they wanted to rush directly to the battlefield and kill everyone. About 3 minutes later, a slight vibration came from the plane. The hearts of the Konoha troops were in their throats for a moment. Coming soon. A drop of cold sweat slipped from his forehead. Sure enough, not long after, a dense black line appeared at the end of the green grassland in his sight. In the future, do you want to attack, Yamanaka? Keiichi looked at Namikaze Mirai, waiting for his answer. Not urgent, Namikaze Mirai just replied with 2 words. Seeing this, Yamanaka Hei could only continue to look at the rushing Kumo ninja troops, secretly calculating the enemy's charging time in his heart. 10 seconds later, the black line had turned into a black cloud ninja. The Konoha ninja waiting at the front seemed to be able to hear the other party's roar. Aren't you going to charge in the future, Yamanaka? Heiichi became nervous. The Kumo ninja troops were already very close. If you continue to wait, I'm afraid that by the time they rush over, it will be too late to organize a counterattack. Not urgent, Namikaze Mirai replied calmly as before. There was a hint of expectation in his blue eyes, as if he was looking forward to something. But, Yamanaka Heii's spirit was tense to the extreme, and he clenched his hands. If you wait any longer, it will be too late. The Kumo ninja's troops were very close. The grassland on the opposite side was full of charging cloud ninjas, and their deafening roars could even be clearly heard here. The Konoha ninjas guarding the front line looked at this scene. Their foreheads were covered with cold sweat, their hearts seemed to be grasped by a big hand, and they were extremely nervous. Several bloodshot threads burst out from Shanzang-hei's eyes. He suddenly began to regret handing over command to Namikaze Mirai. At this distance, even if the Konoha troops organized a counterattack now, it would be too late. He took a deep breath and was about to yell back when he heard a chuckle coming from beside him. It's now. A smile appeared in Namikaze Mirai's eyes the next second. On the ground beneath the charging cloud ninja troops, several silver metal pillars as tall as a person suddenly emerged from the ground, accompanied by a crackling sound of electricity. Dense blue currents were connected in series between the metal pillars, form a dense power grid across the plains. In an instant, screams, wail, came from the charging Kumo ninja troops. The Kumo ninja who rushed at the front was instantly penetrated by high voltage current. While passing through the power grid, his body exploded into bloody pieces of flesh. The cloud ninja at the rear had no time to slow down, and in panic, he touched the high voltage power grid, and his flesh and blood flew everywhere. Yamanaka Hei looked at this scene, and was stunned. Namikaze Mirai next to him rolled his eyes at him. What era is it now? Are you still playing traditional warfare? This is modern warfare. Chapter 72. The war was spoiled. Yamanaka Hei was stunned when he saw this scene, and the Konoha ninja behind him also had his eyes widened, and his mouth was so wide that he could stuff an orange into it. Amazing. So amazing. The sudden appearance of the blue power grid straddles the path that the Kumo ninja troops must pass through to charge, and the time is right. The cloud ninja, who had no time to dodge, could only be broken down by the electric grid in fear, and his flesh and blood flew everywhere. Only then did Yamanaka Heiichi understand what Namikaze was waiting for in the future. He is waiting for Kumo ninja to die. A chill suddenly ran down his back, and his evaluation of Namikaze's future increased a lot. Hey, times have changed, Namikaze. Mirai looked at him out of the corner of his eye. The voice was calm and said, if you continue to look at the world with past thinking, you will not be able to cater to the development of the times, and you will only be eliminated by the times. Yamanaka Heiichi took a deep breath. He understood that it seemed that Namikaze Mirai was talking about this war, but in fact, he was alluding to the situation in Konoha. It's time to make a decision. Should we continue as in the past, with the inner, deer, and butterfly clan as subordinates of Sarutobi, or embrace a new era? Yamanaka Heiichi felt heavy. He knew that after this war ended, a storm that would sweep across Konoha was about to come. Just when Yamanaka Heiichi was deep in thought, the commander of the Kumo ninja troops, Tode, finally reacted and let out a horrified roar. Quick! Stop charging! Thick fear spread from the hearts of the Kumo ninja troops. The sudden appearance of the high voltage power grid caught them off guard. At least 100 Kumo ninjas in the forward troops died, and their flesh and blood dyed the grassland red. Morale took a heavy blow. A cloud ninja troop from New Oda stopped strangely in front of the high voltage power grid, hesitating to move forward. Tute, who was at the rear of the army, was so angry that his teeth itched as he watched this scene. I thought that I had paid enough attention to the future of Namikaze, and the renewed attack would definitely avenge the past. Unexpectedly, just after the war started, they suffered such a big blow. Destroy the barricades, Tute shouted and ordered. Thunder, escape. Earthwalk, earth, escape. Earth-splitting air palm. After receiving the order, the Kumo ninja released a variety of ninjutsu to attack the power grid, blocking the road. However, just as the Kumo ninja destroyed the power grid, Namikaze Mirai's voice spread. Charge! The Konoha ninja, who had been suppressed for a long time, finally found an outlet to vent his anger, and rushed towards the Kumo ninja with a deafening roar. Come on, kill the Kumo ninja troops who were busy destroying the power grid were in panic and unable to organize an effective counterattack. A large number of Kumo ninja were caught off guard, and were cut in two by the Konoha ninjas who rushed towards them. The entire Kumo ninja force fell into commotion in an instant. The Konoha troops' charge was timed very well. It was like a sharp blade, piercing into Yunnen's troops. The war situation began to turn one-sided. Large number of Kumo ninjas were killed by Konoha ninjas every moment. Taute behind looked at this scene and gritted his teeth. Namikaze Mirai's psychological tactics are too slippery. The timing of the power grid's appearance and the timing of the Konoha ninjas' charge were almost perfect. To heavy blows caused the morale of the Cloud Ninja troops to plummet. It is very difficult to organize an effective counterattack. Fortunately, there was a sneer hidden deep in his eyes. The key to this war is not these ordinary ninjas. Calculate the time. It should be almost time, right? Just as he was sneering, the Konoha troops who had the advantage just now suddenly heard several miserable screams. The surrounding Konoha ninjas looked in shock and saw Yukito bathed in blue flames, with 10 fingers stretching out slender claws, like a dexterous cat demon, jumping back and forth on the battlefield. The sharp claws easily broke open the ninja's chest, and the organs mixed with blood spurted out like high-pressure water jets, falling to the grassland like a show-ahead. In this battlefield that was like a rain of blood. Every time Yumi jumped, a Konoha ninja would die. Grace, fatal, damn it. It's the two Yukitos, the Jinchuriki of Kumogakure village. What are the intelligence agencies doing? We're in trouble now. The Konoha ninja felt chilled when they saw this scene and gritted their teeth unwillingly. Yukito is the second-tailed Jinchuriki of Kumogakure and a perfect Jinchuriki. Able to perfectly utilize the power of tailed beasts. It would be impossible for them alone to resist it, no matter what. In a short period of time, no fewer than 10 Konoha ninjas were killed by Yukito. Tute watched the Yumu people killing everyone with a faint smile in his eyes as expected of Yumu Ren. The ultimate weapon of Union village. Just using the chakra of the second tail can achieve such a feat. The balance of victory is gradually tilting towards them. On the Konoha side, Yamanaka Keiichi looked towards Namikaze Mirai. In the future, are you going to take action? With the Jinchuriki gone, only Namikaze should be able to suppress the opponent in the future. On Konoha's side, not urgent. Namikaze Mirai's response was still 2 words short. Yamanaka Heiichi frowned. With Namikaze Mirai's calm look, could it be possible that he had any other ways to deal with it? Soon, Yamanaka Heiichi was startled by the excited voices coming from the Konoha troops. Turn around and luck. Immediately stunned. I saw a large number of Uchiha tribesmen opening their red Sharingan eyes, going crazy like hungry wolves seeing sheep, and rushing towards Yukito. For the glory of Uchiha, kill. Yukito, who was attacking the Konoha ninja, suddenly felt a chill running down his spine, and when he turned his head, his whole body trembled with fear. I saw more than 100 Uchiha rushing towards her with red eyes. In their crazy eyes, they seemed to regard her as a precious prey. Where did it come from? Being targeted by so many Uchiha, Yukito swallowed his saliva and ran away without daring to show off. Hundreds of pink eyes rushed towards him like crazy. Even if Reikage was here, he probably had only one option, running away. All kinds of fire escape shuriken kune were thrown at Yukito like crazy. Yumu Ren, who was killing everyone just a second ago, is now being chased and running around in a panic. Even the Kumo ninja on her escape path suffered a disaster. They were angered by the crazy Uchiha and were beaten to nothing. The Uchiha were breathing heavily and chasing after him. Who has a Jinchuriki that is too valuable? If this Jinchuriki can be eliminated, it will prove Uchiha's strength right. Such thoughts were burning in the hearts of these Uchiha. Not far away, Shiranui Genma and Ashikage and other members of Namikaze Mirai's former team saw this scene in front of their eyes. And they also felt a strong desire to compete in their hearts. We can't lose to the Uchiha next door. Come on. We must not disappoint the future master. Therefore, Namikaze Mirai's old troops on the other side also rushed to kill the Kumo ninja, as if they were given blood. The situation turned upside down in an instant. The earth platform behind looked dumbfounded. He suddenly felt that the direction of this war had become strange. Chapter 73 Blue Flash. Dominate the battlefield. This crazy scene was also caught in the eyes of the surrounding Konoha ninjas, and they swallowed subconsciously. They vaguely guessed what those ninjas were thinking. Submit a certificate of honor if you want to be taken seriously by Namikaze in the future and gain status in the subsequent changes. You must show enough value. With their eyes flickering, these Konoha ninjas seemed to have made up their minds. Come on. The attack power suddenly increased, and he also rushed towards the opposite Yunin like crazy. Yamanakahe and other high-level officials were also shocked by this scene. Isn't this a poor? With this kind of powerful divine assist, Konoha's troops were almost unstoppable, and soon the Kumo ninja troops were suffering and retreating. The arrogant face was at hen. He couldn't understand it at all. Shouldn't Yukito's appearance be a heavy blow to Konoha's morale? How come it's the other way around? Konoha's side seems to have been given a shot of chicken blood. As a result, they who had the advantage were suddenly reversed and fell into a disadvantage. Yukito, who had been chased and beaten, finally got angry. Anyone who is chased like crazy by this group of Uchiha will have a lot of resentment in their hearts. Not to mention she is the most noble Jinchuriki in Kumogakure village. You force me. With his palms on the ground and his back bent like a cat demon, Yumu-ren's eyes were full of coldness, and on his body, rich and ominous chakra surged. Like blue flames the body suddenly swelled and expanded, and a huge shadow suddenly fell and spread across the battlefield. It was as sharp as the scream of a cat demon, echoing on the battlefield. This shocking scene immediately attracted the attention of countless ninjas, and a drop of cold sweat fell from their foreheads. The two tails are traveling again, in full body form, with a deep coldness in his eyes. The second tail looked down at the pursuing Uchiha from a high position. The sound was as sharp as fingernails scratching on a blackboard. This is the price of irritating me. The huge body rushed forward suddenly, leaving blue flames burning with every step he took. The Uchiha ninja quickly formed a seal, and a huge fireball bombarded the second tail's body. The flames dispersed, but the second tail was not damaged at all. Its body is composed of special flames, and it is not afraid of ordinary fire escape at all. Go to hell. The huge paw was photographed brazenly. The evil smile remained in Owa's eyes. Suddenly, the slapped claws froze in midair, and the second tail's eyes were dull, strangely frozen in place. Tode behind the Kumo ninja troops looked at this scene in shock. What happened? Suddenly, he seemed to remember something, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Could it be? There was a smile in Namikaze Mirai's eyes staring at the back standing opposite Owa. Fugaku, you are finally ready to take action. In Uchiha Fugaku's eyes, there was a completely different pattern from the three Magatama. Just like the dark pattern of the shuriken, the three positions of the blades are dotted with three dark Magatama. The surrounding Uchiha gradually came to their senses and noticed Uchiha Fugaku's completely different Sharingan. You can control the tailed beast instantly. Fugaku, how can you? Uchiha's breathing became rapid for a moment, and he stared at Fugaku's position with extremely shocked eyes. The patriarch actually has such eyes. It's amazing. Control the tailed beast in an instant. Ha. As expected of the patriarch, Uchiha raised his head and laughed wildly on the battlefield. The laughter reached Yunin's ears and made the chill in their hearts become even stronger. Damn it. I actually, tried his best to break free from the frightening pupil power. There was a hint of shock in Fugaku's eyes like Madara. This Uchiha actually has eyes of this level. Fugaku's face was calm, as if he had already anticipated the shock caused by the exposure of the kaleidoscope. In the past, he chose to hide these eyes in order to prevent the higher-ups from being afraid and to maximize Uchiha's interests, but now he no longer has this worry. Show your strength with all your strength and restore Uchiha's glory. The majestic pupil power surged out from his eyes, and jet black ribs appeared on the body surface. The pupil power formed the arm skeleton and struck fiercely at Oe. The unlucky second tail had just escaped from the control of Hitomi. Before he could recover, he was shot away by Uchiha Fugaku. The huge body knocked down a large number of cloud ninjas one after another before gradually stopping. My father is so strong. Uchiha Itachi looked at such a tough Fugaku with strong shock in his eyes. The father, who always had a serious face and never took action in front of his clan members, is the true strength so powerful? Is this the true strength of the Fugaku clan? It's so powerful. I didn't expect that there is a Sharingan that surpasses the 3 Megatama. This shocking scene also shocked the surrounding ninjas. Fugaku, who has always disliked being in the limelight, turns out to be so terrifying in his true strength. Even the second tail was easily knocked away. Yamanaka held his breath and looked at Namikaze Mirai's side face with pupils trembling slightly. Did Namikaze Mirai already know about it? How many trump cards does he have? Just when the Konoha ninjas were excited, a huge octopus tail suddenly appeared and took a brazen shot towards where the Konoha ninjas were gathering. Damn. What is this? The sudden attack made the Konoha ninjas, who had just been excited just like a bucket of cold water poured down, extinguishing their passion. The 8 tails Jinchuriki. The experienced ninjas' pupils narrowed. Guess the identity of the attacker. Cloud Hidden Village actually dispatched 2 Jinchuriki. Every Jinchuriki is a weapon of war for the ninja village and will never be used easily until there is a crisis in Cloud Hidden Village. Both Jinchuriki were dispatched. A sense of fear arose from the hearts of the Konoha ninjas on the battlefield. How do they fight against the 2 Jinchuriki? Namikaze Mirai knew it was time for him to take action. Here comes the sword. With a slight movement of his fingers, all the kunai swords on the battlefield seemed to be summoned and flew into the air while trembling. In an instant, the sky above the entire battlefield was like a metal ocean, with countless ninja swords reflecting the cold light. Whether it was the Kumo ninja or the Konoha side, looking up at this scene, their Adam's apples twitched and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads in this sea of swords. They seemed extremely small. All the floating kunai ninja swords were shot in the direction of the Cloud Ninja, and in an instant, screams and wails echoed on the battlefield. Several thick octopus tentacles emerged from behind Kirabi, constantly waving to block the incoming sharp blades. His tentacles were pierced with kunai ninja swords, and a large number of Cloud ninjas were still shot. Blood flowed across the river and screams spread across the land. Standing behind the troops, Tute's eyes burst out with bright red bloodshot eyes. He suddenly thought. During the 3 wars, there were 2 completely different opinions about Konoha's 2-color flash. The yellow flash takes the enemy's head from among the thousands of troops, and his decapitation ability is unmatched in the ninja world. The blue flash controls all metals and has the power to dominate the entire battlefield. Stand on the battlefield. This is Namikaze's strongest moment in the future. Chapter 74. Tailed Beast J-Ball. The sharp blades made of metal all over the sky are like a sea of swords, blocking the sun and casting shadows over most of the battlefield. Kumo ninja is good at ninja swords, and he developed the ninja technique combined with thunder release, and is famous in the ninja world. The Kumo ninja troops have a large number of ninja swords now. These blades have all been controlled by Namikaze Mirai. The blade was pointed at its master, turning into a brutal strangulation weapon. Only now did the Kumo ninja realize what a wrong choice it was to use metal weapons in front of Namikaze Mirai. As the conductor, Tute saw this scene with bloodshot eyes. He discovered that he had made a fatal mistake during the 3rd war. Rumors about Namikaze's future dominance of the battlefield spread widely. In fact, in order to limit his abilities to the maximum extent, Tsunagakure troops gave up equipping them with metal weapons regardless of the cost of reducing the overall combat power. Bone knives and polished stone weapons must be used instead. It can be said that Namikaze Mirai single-handedly brought the equipment level of Tsunagakure village back to the primitive era. Just because of that terrifying and abnormal magnetic escape. Namikaze Mirai's magnetic escape. It's totally unscientific. Kazekage, the 4th generation of Tsunagakure village, also masters the limits of magnetic escape and blood succession. In front of Namikaze Mirai's magnetic escape, he was as helpless as a baby. During the 3rd battle, all the placer gold summoned by Rasa even switched sides, surrounding Namikaze Mirai's feet like a king of metals. After the war, the 4th generation Kazekage suffered a major blow and became insane. The newly succeeded 5th generation Kazekage is Hakura Yakura. Dode thinks he has sufficiently overestimated the future of Namikaze. Unexpectedly, he still underestimated his terrifying ability. If this progress continues, I'm afraid that just the metal weapons looted on this battlefield will be enough to cause heavy casualties to the Kumo ninja troops, with corpses scattered everywhere. Not only Tude discovered this problem, but Yumu Ren and Kirabi also discovered this problem. As perfect Jinchuriki Their reactions were quite quick. Yukito, who had completely transformed into a tailed beast, opened his mouth, and with a burst of sharp sounds that gradually increased in pitch, a super high concentration of chakra spheres appeared from scratch and expanded rapidly. This scene was seen by the surrounding Konoha ninjas. Their scalps were numb and their hairs were trembling. Tailed Beast Jade. It's Tailed Beast Jade. The Tailed Beast's strongest attack can easily destroy a town. A strong and substantial oppression enveloped the Konoha ninjas, and cold sweat dripped from their foreheads. Uchiha Fugaku's Mangeki Sharingan became solemn, and his pupil power surged, wanting to enter the next stage of Susanoo. A double image appeared in his vision, and a feeling of dizziness came to his brain. My power is limited, and I can't continue to squander it. He cautiously exited his Susanoo form. There is an upper limit to the power of the kaleidoscope. Excessive consumption will have irreversible effects. The scene where the two tails were knocked away just now should be enough to clear Uchiha's name. The rest depends on the future. He turned his head and looked in the direction of Namikaze's future. Others on the battlefield, including Yamanaka Heiichi, Akimichi Choza and others, also set their sights on Namikaze Mirai almost at the same time. Feeling nervous, the oppression of the tailed beast Jade is too terrifying. While Urwei was still in the process of accumulating power, the air on the battlefield had completely solidified, making it difficult to breathe. If Namikaze cannot stop the tailed beast in the future, what should they do? Coming soon. In this extremely depressing atmosphere, Yamanaka Heiichi's pupils trembled slightly, and he shouted hoarsely. The tailed beast Jade, that had been charged to its limit, exploded. Huge ravines were plowed out of the ground, like huge cannonballs being discharged, blasting towards the Konoha troops with a deafening roar. Sweat dripped from the Konoha ninja's forehead, with a look of despair, after releasing the two-tailed beast Jade. A ferocious light flashed in his eyes. It seems that he has seen the scene of Konoha troops being blasted into the sky. Ha 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 ha. This is what happens when you go against a tailed beast. Clang, a crisp crash broke the depression on the battlefield. The ferocious smile in Urwei's eyes froze. Just as the tailed beast was about to arrive, blue light flashed, and Namikaze Mirai appeared in front of the tailed beast, waving his right hand outward with the back of his hand like a rubber ball. He swatted away a tailed beast that was dozens of times larger than himself. After crossing a parabola, the tailed beast Jade fell into the distant plane. In the shocked eyes of everyone. After counting the interest, a deafening roar came, and a huge mushroom cloud rose from the plane in the distance. The battlefield also shook, and the wind and waves of the explosion blew on the face of the ninja. Dead silence. Deathly silence, whether it is the two tails who released the tailed beast Jade, or Konoha ninjas such as Yamanaka Heiichi and Uchiha Fugaku. With eyes full of disbelief, he stared blankly at the back of the blonde hair swaying in the wind and waves. Is this a tailed beast Jade? A tailed beast that can level a town? Was he simply blown away by Namikaze Mirai? The Konoha ninja who had just walked away from the gate of hell suddenly felt a strong sense of astonishment and unreality. The scene where Namikaze Mirai thanking and patted the flying tail beast Jade gave them an illusion. It seems that it is not a tailed beast Jade but something like a rubber ball. Namikaze Mirai, who was focused on by everyone, calmly lowered his arm. Only he knows that the process of photographing the flying tail beast Jade seems easy, but in fact it is not difficult at all. Concentrate all your strength, calculate the flight trajectory of the tailed beast Jade, and grasp the timing of the attack just right. Then add hundreds of millions of details. First this, then that. Yes, that's it. Uchiha Madara can play with the nine-tailed beast as a ball. Then it would be natural for him to fly away the two-tailed beast Jade that ranked last among the tailed beasts. The Kumo ninja troops looked at the blonde figure standing in the center of the battlefield, and a strong feeling of fear spread. The scene where Namikaze Mirai filmed the flying tailed beast was so shocking, and the time was just right. It happened to be the moment when the tailed beast was about to arrive, like a divine weapon descending from the sky. With their morale in turmoil, many young ninjas had thoughts of retreating. The blonde figure of Namikaze Mirai has left an indelible impression on their minds. This scene was also taken in by Tate. It's a trivial matter for the tailed beast Jade to be bounced away, but the turmoil and morale is the key, with the Kumo ninjas current depressed state. If they continue to fight, I'm afraid the losses will be an unpredictable figure. Retreat. Tute, who was unwilling to give up, could only give the order to retreat. Looking at the majestic Miku Namikaze standing in the center of the battlefield, the hatred in his eyes became even stronger. I thought that the Jinkriki's support could turn the tide of the battle. Unexpectedly, he was used by Namikaze in the future. The shocking scene of shooting the flying tailed beast was used to severely demoralize the Kumo ninja. There is little point in continuing the fierce battle. The Eight Tails hasn't fully taken action yet, so waiting for the opportunity is a better option. Noticing that the Kumo ninja began to retreat, the Konoha ninja looked at the blonde figure standing in the battlefield. There seemed to be some kind of fire ignited in my heart. Deafening cheers of excitement echoed across the battlefield. Blue flash, blue flash. Chapter 75. The Raikage and Hokage families are sad, but only Uchiha keeps laughing. Konoha. Hokage room. Sarutobi Hiruzen held a cigarette holder in his mouth and took a deep breath, passed through his lungs, closed his eyes, and tasted the smoke, and finally exhaled the smoke. The swirling smoke drifted in front of him. The heaviness on his face did not ease at all. In the past, this cigarette tasting process could bring some comfort to his suppressed nerves, no matter how tense the moment was, but now it rarely fails. The future. He looked out the window in the direction of the battlefield in the Kingdom of Grass and sighed slightly. This battle couldn't have come at a worse time. Konoha's current fighting strength is poor, and I'm afraid that Namikaze will be able to gain unprecedented prestige through this battle in the future. There are also Uchiha, that group of unruly ninjas. I'm afraid they will also be recognized by many ninjas in this battle. Namikaze Mirai deliberately brought them to the battlefield for this purpose. It's just that he clearly knows it, but he can't do anything about it. Konoha now needs Namikaze Mirai and Uchiha's combat power. He was suddenly in a trance. The current Namikaze Mirai is just like Minato back then. But the future is not Minato after all. There was a hint of worry in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes. Namikaze Mirai was unruly and ruthless. Danzo just took Naruto away, but he slaughtered him to the root and killed him brutally. With such a temperamental person becoming the Hokage, is there any place for them in Konoha? Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't want to see that happen, so he did his best to push Tsunade to become Hokage. Thinking of Tsunade, Sarutobi Hiruzen's head hurt again. Since returning from the Uchiha clan last time, Tsunade seemed to have become a different person. Drifting away from him. He sent people to invite him many times, but Tsunade was not invited. Even when the war broke out in Kumogakure village, Tsunade secretly ran to the battlefield without telling him, wanting to do her part. Nonsense. Isn't this nonsense? Even if Tsunade goes to the battlefield before she recovers from the hemophobia, how effective can she be? Just when Sarutobi Hiruzen was feeling depressed, the door to the Hokage's room was suddenly pushed open. The scout ninja walked in and placed a scroll on his desk. Lord Hokage, this is the latest battle situation on the front line. Please take a look. After nodding, Sarutobi Hiruzen picked up the scroll and glanced at it a few times. He seemed to be older and his expression became more complex. After Namikaze Mirai arrived on the battlefield, Konoha's troops seemed to be cheating, and won consecutive victories this time. Union Village even dispatched 2 Jinchuriki. But he was still defeated by Namikaze Mirai. The tailed beast Jade was easily bounced away. The Kumo ninja's morale was shaken, and they had no choice but to retreat. With such a record, I'm afraid Minato wasn't as dazzling back then, right? In the past few days, the villagers in Konoha heard news about the battlefield from nowhere, and admiring talks about Namikaze's future sprung up all over the village. He has been secretly trying to curb this trend. With little success, all kinds of deeds made Sarutobi Hiruzen look paler. This scene was seen by the ninja who presented the information, and he murmured in his heart, Konoha wins. Shouldn't the Hokage be happy? Why do you look like that? Just when Hiruzen Sarutobi looked sad in the Hokage room, then the 4th generation Raikage in the Raikage room of Kumogakure village also looked livid, looking at the information coming from the front. Absurd. How ridiculous. I have already sent you Mu and Bidu. How can this battle continue like this? What is Tute doing? AI was so angry that he was shaking all over. If Tate had not been extremely senior in Kumogakure village, he would have been serving as Nobuomi during his father's reign, and his status would be equivalent to that of Konoha's Danzo. He even wanted to replace Tate and choose another person to be the commander-in-chief of the war. This battle was so ridiculous. Kanejin Shiraki loose by riding on his face. Lord Raikage, things are not that bad. In this battle, Lord Tode miscalculated and did not show his full strength. The two Jinkriki could only transform into the Bokujin-tailed beast. The stronger Hideshi-sama didn't attack with all his strength. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the two-tailed beasts to be deflected at the same time with the blue flash alone. Listen to the scout's gurgling explanation. Ait King's expression gradually softened. After he calmed down, he naturally saw the reason behind this. Among all the tailed beasts, the second-tailed one is only the last in terms of strength. In the future, Namikaze will be able to deflect the two-tailed beast Tama, but he may not be able to deflect the eight-tailed beast Tama. The eight tails are the second most powerful among all tailed beasts. Even his father, the third generation Raikage, the strongest in history, could only use the health rust to smash the eight-tailed beast Jade, but could not deflect it away. There are two-tailed beasts in formation, and the advantage in this battle still lies with Union Village. Tute's choice to retreat was not a defeat, but a rational choice to preserve the overall strength. After weighing the balance. Thinking of this, Aizuen's heart relaxed. The scout beside him considered his words. Lord Raikage, Lord Tode emphasized in his reply that the Kumo Ninja standard equipment should be replaced. Please take a look. The scout handed him another copy of the letter. Looking at the contents of the letter, Ai's face, which had just softened, turned livid again, as if he had swallowed a toad alive. How much money and manpower will be spent on such a large quantity? The number of registered ninjas in Kumogakure village exceeds 10,000, and the number of ninjas sent to the battlefield of Grass Country exceeds thousands. Even if each Kumo ninja only replaces one bone-made ninja sword and one stone kunai, it is still a huge amount. However, Today's wording in this letter was extremely strong, and the words were scrawled with such force that they broke through the paper. I could feel Tute's unwillingness and humiliation when writing this letter. He took a deep breath. The anger in his heart towards Namikaze Mirai once again rose to a new level. Gritting his teeth slightly, according to the requirements in this letter, we will find a craftsman as quickly as possible to make it. The sadness of the Hokage and Raikage families did not affect the Chiz in the Konoha camp. After repelling the attacks of Cloud Hidden Village twice in a row, the emotions of the Konoha ninjas have risen to a whole new level. Walking around the camp, you can see exciting descriptions of the scene where Namikaze Mirai flicked the flying tail beast around. In his words, it seems that Namikaze will be able to rival the ninja god of the past in the future. When passing by the Uchiha tent, one could even hear the crazy laughter coming from inside. The happiest person in this battle is Uchiha. Since the head of the family revealed his kaleidoscope, Susanoo knocked away the two tails with great strength, and Namikaze Mirai easily flicked the flying tail beast. The two were superimposed, and Uchiha almost stopped laughing. As a result, the ninjas passing by the Uchiha camp had to walk faster. He was afraid of being hugged by a group of Uchihas on the shoulders and talking about heroic deeds in such a relaxed atmosphere. Namikaze Mirai rubbed his chin in the tent. He had just learned that Tsunade was also at the camp. Do you want pulling Tsunade into her room? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.